Chapter 1174. Despair. Dan Xiezi, do you think I'm a 3-year-old? If you had a way to kill me, you would have done it long ago. Why would you wait until now? Haha, since you want to die, I'll help you out. Smiling slightly, Dan Xiezi charged at Dan Guzi. Right now, Dan Xiezi was fighting on both sides. On one side, he was using his spiritual strength to deal with Ningyu, while on the other, he was using his martial power to deal with Dan Guzi. Bang! Dan Guzi had been poisoned by the serpent-scorpion venom, and his power was less than a tenth of his peak. Pil Guzi was sent flying dozens of meters away by Dan Xiezi's fist. Vomiting a mouthful of blood, Dan Guzi's face turned pale. What? Why didn't you dodge? To tell the truth, Dan Xiezi was very puzzled that he had been able to hit Dan Guzi so easily. In the decades they had been in this space, Dan Xiezi and Dan Guzi had exchanged over 1,000 blows. Each time, Dan Guzi had been at a complete disadvantage. But although he was at a disadvantage, Dan Xiezi had no way of killing Dan Guzi. In fact, he couldn't even touch Dan Guzi's body. That was because Dan Guzi was even more familiar with this space than he was. Dan Guzi was also very adept at controlling space. Dan Xiezi was very puzzled. Why hadn't Dan Guzi dodged this time? Why should I dodge? Dan Guzi shrugged. All your spiritual strength is focused on controlling Ningyu. What danger could I possibly be in? Ha ha ha! Dan Xiezi laughed maniacally after being asked a few questions by Dan Guzi. Your head has finally opened. Now I'll let you know what it means to pft. Sometimes the more arrogant you were, the more cruel you were. Dan Xiezi's maniacal laughter was interrupted by the sound of blood spurting out of his mouth. Impossible! Dan Xiezi hastily looked at Ningyu. His mouth was wide open, his face filled with disbelief. His late rank 8 spiritual strength had lost its connection to him. In other words, Ningyu had cut off the connection between him and his soul power, causing him to completely lose his soul power. Nothing is impossible. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "You're stupid enough to fight on your own side and ignore me. Although your soul force is slightly stronger than mine, I am the master of my sea of consciousness." Poochie! Dan Xiezi spat out another mouthful of blood. The cold expression on his face became even more obvious. Careless! How careless! If he had known this would happen, Dan Xiezi would definitely have focused on dealing with Ningyu. Once he was done with Ningyu, he would go deal with Dan Guzi. Now Dan Xiezi finally understood why Dan Guzi had chosen to fight him head-on instead of dodging. Everything was for Ningyu. Everything was to buy time for Ningyu. Dan Guzi, remember your promise. Glancing at Dan Guzi, Ningyu's body became illusory, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Dan Guzi. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. This was Ningyu's code of conduct. Ningyu was no saint. Since he had decided to be enemies with Dan Xiezi, he would definitely use all his strength. Clenching his right hand into a fist, he sent a violent yuan qi gale towards Dan Xiezi. You want to kill me? Not so easy. Dan Xiezi's face revealed a vicious expression as he went berserk. In his berserk state, Dan Xiezi's strength had clearly increased. But without his soul force, Dan Xiezi was no match for Ningyu. Bang! 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 On top of that, Ningyu's punches were extremely fast. Every single punch landed on Dan Xiezi's chest, causing him to continuously retreat. After being hit by Ningyu's punches, Dan Xiezi's aura rapidly declined. In a short period of time, he had already fallen from a late-stage 8th-grade human supreme to an early-stage 8th-grade human supreme. Furthermore, Dan Xiezi's aura continued to decline. No. I'm willing to surrender. Seeing that his aura was about to fall to a 7th-grade human supreme, Dan Xiezi hurriedly said, "Shua." Ningyu instantly stopped and stared at Dan Xiezi with interest. Surrendering is fine. Open your mind and let my soul force enter your sea of consciousness. Fine. Dan Xiezi's face darkened as he gritted his teeth. For the sake of survival, Dan Xiezi was willing to do anything, including surrendering. Ningyu, be careful. It might be a trap. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to subdue Dan Xiezi, Dan Guzi hurriedly reminded him. As far as I know, when Dan Xiezi was on the brink of death, he used this method to successfully escape and even killed a peak 8th grade human supreme. It's fine. Dan Xiezi can't cause too much trouble. Waving his hand, Ningyu signaled Dan Guzi not to worry. Ningyu was still very confident in dealing with Dan Xiezi, who had lost his soul force. Whoosh! With a thought, Ningyu separated a special wisp of soul force and sent it straight into Dan Xiezi's sea of consciousness. Good chance. The moment Ningyu's soul force entered Dan Xiezi's sea of consciousness, Dan Xiezi's eyes lit up and he immediately sealed Ningyu's soul force. Brat, I've mastered an extremely vicious spell. As long as I seal a wisp of your soul force, I can heavily injure you, Dan Xiezi said sinisterly. Let me give you a piece of advice. Hurry up and surrender. Otherwise, I will activate the spell and you will die without a grave. I'll give you a chance. Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said indifferently. Fine. Dan Xiezi did not hesitate and immediately activated the spell to control Ningyu's soul force. However, just as Dan Xiezi activated the spell, he let out a loud cry and spat out a mouthful of blood. What's going on? This sudden turn of events caused Dan Xiezi's mouth to gape in shock. Why was it that when he used Ningyu's soul force to cast a spell, he ended up being the one injured? I got it. At that moment, Dan Xiezi thought of a possibility. You. The soul force you sent into my sea of consciousness is mine. You just blocked it off. Dan Xiezi almost went crazy. The soul force in his sea of consciousness did not belong to Ningyu. It belonged to him. Now this was awkward. He originally wanted to use a secret spell to severely injure Ningyu. Who would have thought that he would be the one to be hit? Dan Xiezi, if I were you, I would find a piece of tofu and kill myself. Curling his lips, Ningyu raised his brows and said, If I'm not wrong, you still have an ancient scroll on you. Once you activate that ancient scroll, I won't be able to fight back at all. What a pity. Because you didn't want your cultivation to regress, you ended up disappearing into thin air. The reason why Ningyu did not kill Dan Xiezi right away was because he was afraid that Dan Xiezi would use up his life force to activate the ancient scroll. Now that Dan Xiezi had been hit and was lying on the ground like a dead dog, Ningyu had nothing to worry about. Moving his feet, Ningyu arrived in front of Dan Xiezi and reached out to search Dan Xiezi's body. Chapter 1175. Chapter 1175. Healing after a while, Ningyu retracted his palm. There was a black scroll in his hand. The scroll wasn't particularly big, but the terrifying essence chi fluctuations emitted from it still made Ningyu gasp in shock. Looking at the scroll in his hand, Ningyu's face turned solemn. Not only did the scroll emit a terrifying yuan chi fluctuation, but it also had a terrifying suction force. Ningyu could clearly feel that the only way to activate the scroll was to consume his life force. In other words, to activate the scroll, one's life force was the price. With Ningyu's current life force, if he activated the scroll, he would be able to fight against a 9th grade human supreme. Dan Xiezi, you are really my lucky star. Keeping the scroll, Ningyu said to Dan Xiezi, If you have any last words, say them. I will try my best to fulfill them. Die. Dan Xiezi was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. If he had known this would happen, he would have used the ancient scroll earlier. Even if he had to consume his life force, he would not have hesitated. At least he would have been able to survive, unlike now, where everything was gone and Ningyu had the upper hand. When a person was angry, they would always be able to explode with terrifying power. Dan Xiezi was no exception. He used all the strength in his body to throw out a punch, bringing with it a violent yuan qi gale towards Ning Yu's head. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Even though Dan Xiezi was severely injured, his punch was still very powerful. Ning Yu did not dare to be slow. He quickly wrapped his yuan qi around his wrist and threw a punch. Qi. Relatively speaking, Ning Yu's attack was much stronger than Dan Xiezi's. The air let out a hissing sound as Ning Yu's fist collided with Dan Xiezi's right hand. Crack! A crisp sound, accompanied by a miserable shriek that sounded like a pig being slaughtered, resounded in the area. Thump! After a miserable scream, Dan Xiezi's body fell heavily to the ground. At this moment, Dan Xiezi from the Pill Completion Mainland's Alchemy Union was killed by Ning Yu. Dan Guzi, 70 Xingyang pills. After killing Dan Xiezi, Ning Yu extended his right hand towards Dan Guzi. Hand it over. Pill Guzi's expression was extremely gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. He had a total of 80 Xingyang pills on him. If he were to give 70 to Ning Yu, he would only be left with 10. 10 Xingyang pills might seem like a lot, but he was poisoned by the snake-scorpion venom and required Xingyang pills to sustain his life at all times. If he were to give all of his Xingyang pills to Ning Yu, the consequences would be dire. Ning Yu, you need to expel the snake-scorpion venom from my body first. Pill Guzi clenched his teeth. Pill Guzi knew that this request would definitely displease Ning Yu. After all, he had already made an agreement with Ning Yu. Ning Yu would help him deal with Dan Xiezi, and he would give Ning Yu 70 Xingyang pills. Now that he was the one who went back on his word, he naturally felt ashamed. Swish! As expected, Ning Yu's face darkened upon hearing Pill Guzi's words. If I can kill Dan Xiezi, then I can kill you. Ning Yu's words came out of his mouth. I'll give you one last chance. Take out 70 Xingyang pills. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen. You must first expel the snake-scorpion venom from my body. Pill Guzi's stance was very firm. For him, the last straw to clutch at was Ning Yu. If Ning Yu didn't help him, he would very likely die in this space. Pill Guzi knew his body's situation better than anyone else. Without anyone's help, he could only last 3 days at most. After 3 days, the snake-scorpion venom would seep into his heart. At that time, not even a god would be able to save him. Therefore, Ning Yu was a life-saving straw, and he must grab it. AI, you're forcing me to make a move. Sighing lightly, Ning Yu reached into his robes and took out the red devil sword. Seeing the red devil sword in Ning Yu's hand, Pill Guzi's heart shook. He had a bad feeling. Ning Yu taking out the red devil sword meant that Ning Yu wanted to kill him. I can swear an oath to the heavenly Tao that as long as you do your best to expel the snake-scorpion venom from my body, whether you succeed or not, I will give you all the Xingyang pills. At this critical moment, Pill Guzi hurriedly said, furthermore, I will promise to protect you unconditionally for a month. That seems very tempting. Ning Yu frowned slightly. Since you're so sincere, I'll first help you expel the snake-scorpion venom from your body. I, Pill Guzi, swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. If Ning Yu helps me expel... Pill Guzi forced out a drop of essence blood and swore the oath in front of Ning Yu. Sit down and relax your mind. No matter what's going on in your body, don't move, said Ning Yu after Dan Guzi swore an oath to the heavenly Tao. Swish. Since he'd already sworn the oath, Pill Guzi could only trust Ning Yu. Without a second word, Pill Guzi sat down. Swish. As soon as Pill Guzi sat down, Ning Yu sent a wisp of his spiritual strength into Pill Guzi's body. My God, my God! When his spiritual strength entered Pill Guzi's body and saw his organs, Ning Yu couldn't help but curse. Terrifying. Extremely terrifying. Of Pill Guzi's organs, only his heart was still intact. Everything else had begun to rot. Luckily, you ran into me. Otherwise, even a god wouldn't be able to save Pill Guzi after a while. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu carefully controlled his spiritual strength and circulated it through Pil-Guzi's body. With every second that passed, a small drop of black liquid would flow out of Pil-Guzi's skin. This black liquid was the venom of the snake-scorpion venom. I need to speed up. Narrowing his eyes, Ningyu once more sent a wisp of spiritual strength into Pil-Guzi's body, focusing all his attention on expelling the snake-scorpion venom. Based on the previous speed, Ningyu would need at least a few hours to help Pil-Guzi recover to his peak condition. But now, he estimated that he would only need an hour, or even less, for Ningyu to completely expel the snake-scorpion venom from Pil-Guzi's body. On this side, Ningyu was still working hard to help Pil-Guzi expel the snake-scorpion venom. In the Imperial Palace, in Ouyang-Luan's room, Xielan felt a sweetness in his throat as he spurted a mouthful of blood. Elder Xie, are you all right? Xielan's situation had caused the hearts of Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yun Mu to tighten as they spoke out anxiously. I'm fine. Wiping the blood off the corner of his lips, Xielan fiercely said, Those from the Divine Heaven Gate are too despicable. They actually launched a sneak attack on me when I wasn't paying attention. Forget it. Josei and the rest are all 5th-grade sovereigns, 3 absolute geniuses. Even if they fought you head-on, you wouldn't be able to win. In another corner of the room, the Dark Emperor rolled his eyes. Let me remind you, the clones of the Great Desolation Venerable are all pinnacle 8th-grade sovereigns. The moment his main body comes, we'll all be finished. Ha ha ha! When the Dark Emperor's voice landed, a burst of laughter resounded from the void. Buzz. Chapter 1176. The Great Desolation Venerable's Attack. Russell. Looking at the black-robed cultivator, the Dark Emperor's voice came to an abrupt halt. Aside from the Dark Emperor, even the Sword of Evil and Xielan had a drastic change in their expressions as their hearts sank to the bottom. 9th-grade sovereign. The Sword of Evil and the rest could clearly determine that the black-robed cultivator's cultivation was at the 9th-grade sovereign realm. Ouyang-Luan had sent many transcendent-grade origin crystals, royal-grade origin crystals, and even a few 8th-grade elixirs. However, those items weren't enough for the Sword of Evil and Xielan to recover to their peak state. Furthermore, even if they recovered to their peak state, they wouldn't be a match for the black-robed cultivator. Where's Ningyu? Why isn't he here? The black-robed cultivator asked as he swept his gaze across the room. Ningyu has already left the Great Xia Kingdom, the Dark Emperor said coldly. The black-robed cultivator was a 9th-grade sovereign. For the sake of Ningyu's safety, the Dark Emperor decided to lie. After your clone exploded, Ningyu immediately left the Great Xia Kingdom. If I'm not wrong, he should be in the Lanqing Kingdom right now. Haha, I didn't expect you guys to know that I'm the Great Desolation Venerable. The Great Desolation Venerable said with a smile. I don't believe a single word you guys said. After a brief pause, the Great Desolation Venerable continued, The heavens are merciful. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. I want to see Ningyu and Lu Wei in 3 minutes. Otherwise, boom. The Great Desolation Venerable's eyes turned cold as a terrifying aura was unleashed from his body, pressing towards the Sword of Evil and the rest. Under the pressure of the Great Desolation Venerable's aura, the Sword of Evil vomited a mouthful of blood as his aura weakened. Even the Sword of Evil vomited blood. One could imagine that Xielan, the Dark Emperor, and the rest wouldn't have a good ending. Fortunately, Honorable De Huang did not use his full strength. Otherwise, with the cultivation of the Dark Emperor, Dong He, and the others, they would have died long ago. Sovereign Great Desolation found a chair and sat down as he shut his eyes to recuperate. Swoosh. On the surface, the Great Wilderness Venerable seemed to be resting with his eyes closed. In actual fact, the Great Wilderness Venerable had already released his soul power and perception to probe the Imperial Palace carefully. The main reason why Reverend Great Desolation didn't kill the Sword of Evil and the others was that he was afraid that Ning Yu would leave the Xia kingdom. As long as he could control the Sword of Evil and the others, even if Ning Yu were to leave the Xia kingdom, the Honorable Great Desolation would have a way to bring him back. What now? Xiaolon approached the Sword of Evil and whispered as the Reverend of Great Wilderness was probing the imperial family. Wait. Venerable Sword Evil was a man of few words, he only said one word. Wait. Xiaolon's face was filled with confusion. Logically speaking, he had to think of a way to escape or fight. He had to come up with a plan. The Honorable Great Desolation gave them 3 minutes, and 3 minutes would soon pass. If the Honorable Great Desolation started a massacre, wouldn't they be in serious trouble? We can only wait. It's impossible for us to escape. The Sword of Evil said in a deep voice. The reason why the Honorable Great Desolation didn't kill us right away means that we are still useful to him. What we have to do now is to wait. The Sword of Evil is right. The Honorable Great Desolation definitely wants to use us to lure Ning Yu out. As long as we don't say anything, he won't dare to do anything to us. The Dark Emperor nodded. Bang. However, as soon as the Dark Emperor finished his sentence, his body flew out and slammed against the door. Crack! The wooden door was smashed into smithereens. The Dark Emperor wasn't in his peak condition to begin with. Now that he was ambushed by the Honorable Great Desolation, it made things worse. Tell me where Ning Yu is, or I'll start with you. The Honorable Great Desolation retracted his senses and said coldly, Steamed dog meat is a good dish. The Honorable Great Desolation chose to attack because he couldn't find Ning Yu in the royal family. His goal was to find Ning Yu. How could he not be angry when he couldn't find him? I told you long ago that Ning Yu went to the Lanqin kingdom, but you didn't believe me. The Dark Emperor clenched his teeth and said with pride. Bang! 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 The Honorable Great Desolation would never hold back against a tough opponent like the Dark Emperor. He clenched his fists and threw a few punches, each landing on the Dark Emperor's body. The Honorable Great Desolation was a 9th-grade human supreme, while the Dark Emperor was a 3rd-grade intermediate human supreme. Although the Dark Emperor gathered all his vitality on the surface of his skin, he still couldn't defend against the Honorable Great Desolation's powerful attacks. The Dark Emperor suffered a total of 30 punches. Out of the 30 punches, only one was fatal, which was the last punch. The Honorable Great Desolation swung his wrist and threw another punch with his right hand. Gotcha! The fist came into contact with the Dark Emperor's chest and broke a few of his ribs. The Dark Emperor's mouth was agape as he looked at the Honorable Great Desolation in horror. He stretched out his right hand and said, You've actually reached the pinnacle of early stage 9th-grade human supreme. You're only half a step away from advancing to the middle stage 9th-grade human supreme. Thump! The Dark Emperor's head tilted and he fell to the ground, fainting. You're smart. I'm indeed a pinnacle of early stage 9th-grade human supreme. Curling his lips, the Honorable Great Desolation laughed. I wanted to kill you, but your identity as a purple gold sky devouring hound saved your life. Otherwise, you would have been long dead. What are you trying to do? The Dark Emperor said coldly. I've already said that steamed dog meat is a good dish. I'm going to steam you alive. The Honorable Great Desolation waved his sleeves and a giant elixir furnace flew out, expanding in the room. Rustle! A minute later, when the elixir furnace had expanded by several folds, the Honorable Great Desolation grabbed the Dark Emperor and threw him into the elixir furnace. Shit! Seeing the Honorable Great Desolation's actions, the Sword of Evil let out a deep roar and swiftly charged out, using all his strength to attack the Honorable Great Desolation. The Dark Emperor had fought alongside him. Even if he couldn't confront the Honorable Great Desolation, the Sword of Evil had to think of a way to save the Dark Emperor. He wasn't willing to pay any price. 100 flowers bloom. Seeing the Sword of Evil making a move, Xielan also grabbed at the void. Along with the movement of Xielan's hands, several petals descended from the sky and surrounded the Honorable Great Desolation. I never thought that you're from the 100 Flowers Palace. Sensing the petals that covered the sky, the Honorable Great Desolation was briefly stunned before he continued, if your palace master came personally, I might be fearful. But if a middle-stage 8th grade sovereign like you makes a move, I can kill you with a wave of my hand. The Honorable Great Desolation waved his sleeves as the word kill resounded. Whoosh, 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 several cold lights flew out from the Honorable Great Desolation's sleeves and came into contact with the petals in the sky. Rustle! The hundreds of petals couldn't put up any resistance against the dozens of cold lights and were instantly defeated. Chapter 1177. Poof, 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 poof. Although those cold beams were obstructed by a few hundred petals, they still managed to obtain a complete victory against Venerable Talisman and the rest. Venerable Talisman, Yunmu, and Dong He. The three of them were struck by the cold beams as they spurted blood from their mouths. They only lasted for a few minutes before they fainted like the Dark Emperor. Only a few minutes had passed since Venerable Great Desolation appeared. In just a few minutes, the Dark Emperor and Venerable Talisman had suffered heavy injuries and their fates were unknown. As for the Sword of Evil and Xielan, their conditions weren't perfect, and they were only a step away from death. I'll give you guys one last chance. Tell me where Ningyu is, or I'll make you guys suffer. Venerable Great Desolation's eyes emitted an eerie chill as he eerily said, I'll count to 3. If you guys don't tell me, I can only send you guys to hell. 1. Venerable Great Desolation stretched out his right index finger as he said in a solemn voice. The Sword of Evil and Xielan's faces were dark, but no one spoke a word. 2. The viciousness on Venerable Great Desolation's face grew more evident. The Sword of Evil and the rest still did not speak a word. 3. When the Great Wilderness Venerable uttered the third word, his face turned completely gloomy. Die. Venerable Great Desolation stomped on the ground as his body charged out like a sharp sword. Venerable Great Desolation had already reached the end of his patience. He had decided to kill the Sword of Evil and Xielan before using a secret technique to extract their memories. As long as he had their memories, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to find Ningyu. Venerable Great Desolation wasn't the Dark Emperor. Extracting the memories of an 8th grade sovereign would greatly affect him. But to find Ningyu and Lu Wei, Venerable Great Desolation couldn't be bothered anymore. He had to take the risk. Before Venerable Great Desolation arrived before Xielan and the rest, a cold snort resounded in his ears. Shit! The cold snort caused Venerable Great Desolation's face to slightly change as he immediately retreated. Rustle! Rustle! Whoosh! In the next moment, 3 figures tore through the void and appeared in the room. Ningyu, leave quickly. You're not the Great Wilderness Reverend. Seeing that the martial artists were Ningyu and the others, the Sword of Evil hastily warned them. However, when the Sword of Evil saw the old man beside Ningyu, his voice stopped abruptly. From the old man, the Sword of Evil sensed an aura that was not weaker than that of the Venerable of Great Wilderness. 9th grade human supreme martial artist. The old man's cultivation was also at the 9th grade human supreme realm. Gulp. Venerable Sword Evil and Xielan exchanged a glance and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. Where did Ningyu go? He actually managed to get such powerful reinforcement. Could this old man be the ancestor of the royal family? Or could it be that the old man had a good relationship with Ningyu? All sorts of doubts rose in the hearts of the Sword of Evil and Xielan. Rustle. Ignoring the cold expression of the Great Wilderness Reverend, Ningyu instantly appeared before the Dark Emperor and the rest. Piak. Slapping his right hand on the Dark Emperor's chest, he tossed a Xingyang pellet into the Dark Emperor's mouth. Ningyu did the same action on the talisman supremacy Yunmu, Dong He and the rest. The Xingyang pellets that Ningyu fed them were specially refined by him. They were similar to the sacred aura. Phew! The Xingyang pellets had proven to be effective. After consuming the Xingyang pellet, the Dark Emperor, Talisman Supremacy, Yunmu and even Dong He opened their eyes and their auras improved. Xingyang pellet. The Great Wilderness Reverend coldly watched everything. That's right, at least you have a good eye. Ningyu said indifferently, Great Wilderness Reverend, I know you're from the Divine Heaven Gate, but you'll be disappointed if you want to kill me. Ah! Laughing maniacally, the Great Wilderness Reverend said, Those that I, the Great Wilderness Reverend, want to kill haven't lived a day longer. Dan Guzi, how confident are you in killing the Great Wilderness Reverend? Ningyu couldn't be bothered to waste words with the Great Wilderness Reverend. Since Dan Guzi was here, the Great Wilderness Reverend would naturally be handled by Dan Guzi. After all, he'd spent a lot of effort to expel the serpent-scorpion venom from Dan Guzi's body. Right now, his strength wasn't even a tenth of his peak. The task of dealing with the Great Wilderness Reverend was definitely on Dan Guzi's shoulders. There's no way to kill him. At most, we'll be evenly matched. Dan Guzi's expression was dark. Both sides were rank 9 human sovereigns, and Dan Guzi had just recovered from his illness. In terms of fighting strength, he was slightly weaker than the Great Wilderness Reverend. Fortunately, Dan Guzi's spiritual strength was extremely powerful. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to intimidate the Great Wilderness Reverend. Ningyu, I'll ask you one last time. Lu Wei, are you going to hand her over or not? The Great Wilderness Reverend's expression was cold as he fiercely demanded. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Frowning slightly, Ningyu said, If you have the ability, then kill me or capture me. If you don't, then shut up and scram. You. Being rebuked by Ningyu, the Great Wilderness Reverend trembled in anger. But thinking of his goal this time, he took a deep breath and tore open the void with both hands, wanting to leave. Where there's life, there's hope. Furthermore, the Great Wilderness Reverend didn't believe that Dan Guzi would always be by Ningyu's side. As long as he could find a chance to capture Ningyu, all his problems would be easily resolved. I'll let you guys be smug for a few days. The corner of his mouth curled up, the Great Wilderness Reverend stepped into the void. Rumble! Just as the Great Wilderness Reverend's head entered the void, the entire space above the capital suddenly split open. Swish! 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 The void split open and 3 figures emerged from the void. What's going on? Who are those 3? Why are they floating in the air? Who else could it be? They must be experts. It's best if we don't get involved. That's right. When immortals fight, we should hide early to avoid being implicated. Right. You're right. Even if the sky falls, Danwu College and the Imperial family will hold it up. We shouldn't get involved blindly. After the 3 figures appeared, the capital was momentarily thrown into a panic. But the panic didn't last for long, and everything returned to normal. Sha. The 3 figures landed on the streets of the capital and quickly blended into the crowd, disappearing from sight. While the 3 figures disappeared, in a certain room in the Imperial family, Ningyu and Dan Guzi's expressions completely darkened. Their hearts sank to the bottom. Rank 9 human supremes. Ningyu and Dan Guzi could clearly sense that the leader of the 3 figures that had appeared in the void was a rank 9 human supremes. The other 2 cultivators weren't rank 9 human supremes, but their cultivation had reached the peak of rank 8 human supremes. Most importantly, Dan Guzi sensed an extremely familiar aura from the 3 of them. Chapter 1178. Venerable Ling Su, could it be that those 3 have enmity with Ningyu's group? Seeing the changes in Ningyu's and Dan Guzi's expressions, a bold idea rose in Venerable Great Desolation's mind. Gritting his teeth, Venerable Great Desolation channeled his soul energy and sent a voice transmission to the ninth-grade human sovereign on the streets of the capital. The person you're looking for is here. I'll block for you for now. Saying that, Venerable Great Desolation focused his mind and paid attention to any sudden situations. Russell. On the streets of the capital, the ninth-grade human supreme being stopped in his tracks when he heard the voice. Saber Mountain Venerable, what's wrong? Seeing that the ninth-grade human sovereign had stopped, a pinnacle eighth-grade human sovereign asked in puzzlement. Nothing, follow me. The old man called Saber Mountain Venerable shook his head and tore space apart before entering. Upon seeing Saber Mountain Venerable entering the void, the remaining two peak 8th grade sovereign venerables did not hesitate at all. They quickly followed suit and disappeared. Damn it! In the royal family's room, Ning Yu's expression turned ugly when he sensed three powerful figures rushing towards him at high speed. As the saying went, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Ning Yu could predict that the three experts from the Alchemy Union would definitely join forces with Venerable Great Desolation. At that time, they would lose the chance to escape. Let's go. Ning Yu wasn't an indecisive person. He left as soon as he said he would. Grabbing Dark Emperor, Yunmu, and the others with his left and right hands respectively, Ning Yu executed a secret art and tore through the void, flying far away. Bang! Ning Yu's speed wasn't slow, but it didn't take long before he crashed into a transparent barrier. Buzz! Buzz! Following that, three figures appeared. It's here indeed. Locking his gaze on Dan Guzi, Saber Mountain Venerable's lips rose. Dan Guzi, I didn't expect your cultivation to not improve after fleeing for so many years. Saber Mountain Venerable, you've actually reached the middle phase 9th grade sovereign. Dan Guzi's expression was very ugly. What is your goal in coming here? My goal? Isn't that obvious? I'll bring you back to the Alchemy Union's headquarters and conveniently bring back the Xingyang pills left behind by the Devil Venerable. Blade Mountain Venerable answered with a faint smile. I was poisoned by the serpent scorpion venom. After all these years, I've used up most of my Xingyang pills. I don't even have one left, said Dan Guzi. Not a single one left? Saber Mountain Venerable shrugged and answered, It's true that you don't have any Xingyang pills with you, but Saber Mountain Venerable One changed the topic and pointed at Ning Yu. This young fella has Xingyang pills, and there are a lot of them, at least 10s of them. Hiss! Hearing the Blade Mountain Venerable's words, not only were the two pinnacle 8th grade sovereigns shocked, even the Great Desolation Venerable sucked in a cold breath. 10s of Xingyang pills? If he had all of them, he might even be able to advance to the intermediate 9th grade sovereign realm. The Great Desolation Venerable was vexed that he didn't execute his secret technique on Ning Yu and take down Ning Yu first. The only thing we can do now is to wait and see if we can get some soup. With the Blade Mountain Venerable around, the Great Desolation Venerable didn't dare to act recklessly. Given his initial 9th grade sovereign cultivation, he might not even be able to withstand a single move from the Blade Mountain Venerable. There was a huge difference between an intermediate 9th grade sovereign and an initial 9th grade sovereign. If only Supremacy Spiritual Su was here. At this moment, the Great Desolation Venerable thought of Supremacy Spiritual Su. Supremacy Spiritual Su was the old friend he went to see after coming to the Great Xia Kingdom. Although they were called old friends, they only met once during the Black Moon Continent's Genius Tournament. Because Supremacy Spiritual Su was an intermediate 9th grade sovereign, the Great Desolation Venerable had no choice but to pay him a visit. I'll tell Supremacy Spiritual Su first. Turning his eyes, the Great Desolation Venerable secretly forced out a drop of blood essence and started training Supremacy Spiritual Su. Brat, hand over the Xingyang pills and we can spare your life. After all, our target is Dan Guzi, not you. Beside the Blade Mountain Venerable, a peak 8th grade sovereign called He Fei said, Don't think of putting up a futile resistance. If we want to kill you, it'll be easier than squashing an ant. That's right. Hand over the Xingyang pills and live. Otherwise, die. The other peak 8th grade sovereign was called He Shu. He was the brother of He Fei. Ning Yu's face was dark. No one knew what he was thinking. If it was just 2 peak 8th grade sovereigns and the Great Desolation Venerable, he wouldn't be afraid. But with the Blade Mountain Venerable around, he couldn't do anything. Helpless, Ning Yu took out a storage bag and threw it to the Blade Mountain Venerable. But Saber Mountain Venerable caught the storage bag firmly and tossed it into his arms without even looking at it. Don't make me repeat myself. Hand over all of your Xingyang pills. There were only 10 Xingyang pills in the storage bag that he gave to the Blade Mountain Venerable. That also meant that Ning Yu still had over 60 Xingyang pills left. Ha ha! Why is the imperial family so lively today? Just when Ning Yu wanted to take out the second storage bag, a burst of laughter resounded from the void. Crack! Thereafter, the void cracked and a gray-clothed elder appeared. Supremacy Spiritual Su. Middle 9th grade sovereign. The Great Desolation Venerable and the Blade Mountain Venerable exclaimed the moment the gray-clothed elder appeared. But while the Great Desolation Venerable was delighted, the Blade Mountain Venerable had a grave expression. Just when he was about to obtain the dozens of Xingyang pills, a middle 9th grade sovereign appeared out of nowhere, which made the Blade Mountain Venerable unhappy. Despite being unhappy, the Blade Mountain Venerable continued, "I'm the Blade Mountain Venerable from the headquarters of the Elixir Formation Continent. May I know where you're from?" The Blade Mountain Venerable's intention was clear. He would first introduce himself and use the headquarters of the Elixir Formation Union to suppress him. If the other party was a wandering cultivator without a sect, then today's matter would be resolved perfectly. If the other party was from a sect, then today would be troublesome. It doesn't matter where I'm from. What's important is that the headquarters of the Elixir Formation Union can't suppress me. Supremacy Spiritual Su faintly said, "Isn't it stuffy to have so many people in this room?" I advise you not to be a busybody. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. The Blade Mountain Venerable was prideful as he snorted. Supremacy Great Desolation, why did you call me here? Supremacy Spiritual Su ignored the Blade Mountain Venerable's snort and turned towards the Great Desolation Venerable. Ning Yu has dozens of Xingyang pills with him. The reason why I called you here is to split the Xingyang pills with you. The Great Desolation Venerable coldly continued, "According to my speculations, Ning Yu should have 60 to 70 Xingyang pills with him. How about we split it 50 to 50? Seeing that Supremacy Spiritual Su wasn't speaking, the Great Desolation Venerable clenched his teeth. Chapter 1179. Chapter 1179. Soul Jade Pendant Sovereign Spiritual Su, leave some leeway in case we meet again in the future. No matter what, I was the one who told you that there were Xingyang pills here. You can't not leave a single one for me, can you? Sovereign Great Desolation's face turned ugly when he saw that there was no reaction from Sovereign Spiritual Su even after he offered a 90% split. Sovereign Spiritual Su's table manners were too ugly. He was furious that he wasn't even leaving a single Xingyang pill for him. You might have misunderstood my meaning. Sovereign Spiritual Su shook his head. There's nothing wrong with you wanting the Xingyang pills. You can only blame yourself for wanting to be enemies with Ning Yu. So what if I'm enemies with Ning Yu? Sovereign Great Desolation's eyes widened in disbelief. Could it be that Sovereign Spiritual Su and Ning Yu knew each other? Sovereign Great Desolation's face turned uglier and uglier at that thought. If Sovereign Spiritual Su really knew Ning Yu and had a good relationship with him, then he was doomed today. After all, he wasn't that familiar with Sovereign Spiritual Su. Leave. Don't get involved in this or it won't be good for you. Reverend Lingshu didn't bother to explain too much. Alright. After Sovereign Saber Mountain and Sovereign Spiritual Su appeared, Sovereign Great Desolation knew that it wouldn't end well for him if he stayed. His plan to fish in troubled waters had completely failed. Rather than staying behind to face danger, he might as well leave and find a chance to strike. Hold it. However, Sovereign Great Desolation had only taken a few steps when Sovereign Saber Mountain waved his hand. Sovereign Great Desolation, you deal with Dan Guzi. Leave this mid-grade 9 human sovereign to me and let He Fei and He Shu snatch the Xingyang pills from that kid. Wouldn't that be great? Swish. Sovereign Great Desolation stopped in his track. In truth, Sovereign Saber Mountain was a huge temptation to him. He wasn't too far away from the mid-grade 9 human sovereign realm. As long as he had a large amount of Xingyang pills, he had a high chance of advancing to the mid-grade 9 human sovereign realm. Give me 10 Xingyang pills first. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. Although the Great Wilderness Venerable wanted to work with the Blade Mountain Venerable, the Great Wilderness Venerable was not a fool, and he knew that he was asking a tiger for its skin. Therefore, he first asked Saber Mountain Venerable for Xingyang pills. Let's see if Saber Mountain Venerable will give it to us. If Saber Mountain Venerable gave it to him, it would mean that Saber Mountain Venerable wanted to work with him. If not, whoosh. As soon as the Great Wilderness Venerable One had the thought, Blade Mountain Venerable tossed the storage bag to him. After catching the storage bag, Venerable De Huang split a part of his perception to check it. Soon after, his face lit up with joy. 10 Xingyang pills. There were a total of 10 Xingyang pills in the storage bag, but Saber Mountain Venerable gave all of them to Ouyangming. How is it? I'm very sincere. The corner of Saber Mountain Venerable's mouth rose. Dan Guzi is on par with you, so you just need to hold him back. No problem. Venerable De Huang nodded heavily and said, Sigh. Just then, Reverend Spiritual Su sighed out softly. Xingyang pills are mere worldly possessions. Why must we use force to settle it? Ah! Saber Mountain Venerable was startled at first, then he laughed out loud. If we don't settle it by force, are we going to play rock, paper, scissors? Oh, right. Suddenly, Saber Mountain Venerable seemed to have thought of something. Reverend Spiritual Su, I understand what you mean. You want to compete in alchemy with me, right? I'll give you a chance. Let's compete in alchemy and see who can refine. It's indeed a competition in alchemy, but it's not me. Reverend Spiritual Su shrugged. It's Ningyu. Saber Mountain Venerable could not help but laugh when he heard Reverend Spiritual Su's words. Ningyu wanted to compete in alchemy with him? What a joke. One must know that he was a peak grade 8 alchemist. In a certain sense, he was not far from a grade 9 alchemist. Ningyu was only a grade 7 alchemist. How could he beat him in alchemy? Don't misunderstand. What I meant was to let Ningyu compete with the 2 alchemists you brought, Reverend Spiritual Su reminded. Compete with He Fei and the others in alchemy? Although it was different from what he had expected, Saber Mountain Venerable was still shocked. He Fei was an early-stage grade 8 alchemist, while He Shu was a middle-stage grade 8 alchemist. No matter who it was, Ningyu could not win. Reverend Spiritual Su, since we're going to bet, why don't we make it big? Saber Mountain Venerable said sinisterly while rolling his eyes. What kind of bet? Reverend Spiritual Su asked calmly. It's simple. If Ningyu wins, I won't ask him for the Xingyang pills. Of course, it's impossible for Ningyu to defeat He Fei and the others in alchemy. Saber Mountain Venerable smirked. If Ningyu fails, not only will I want the Xingyang pills from him, but I'll also want you to swallow this pill. Following that, Blade Mountain Venerable retrieved a black pill from his pocket. Initially, Saber Mountain Venerable did not have such an idea. However, Reverend Spiritual Su's suggestion made him determined. He had to think of a way to get rid of Reverend Spiritual Su. He was a middle-stage grade 9 human supreme. If he could obtain tens of Xingyang pills and use a secret technique to devour Reverend Spiritual Su, Reverend Great Desolation, Dan Guzi, and everyone else in the capital, he would have a 90% chance of advancing to a late-stage Grade 9 Human Supreme. This is the Black Moon mainland. It's worlds apart from Danqing mainland. Even if I start a massacre here, it'll be difficult for it to be transmitted back to Danqing mainland. Saber Mountain Venerable said fiercely. The bolder one was, the greater one's cultivation would be. You can't catch the wolf without risking the child. Saber Mountain Venerable, isn't this bet a little too unfair? Upon hearing Saber Mountain Venerable's words, Ning Yu's face turned sour. If I win, you won't lose anything. If I lose, you'll gain a lot. Is it unfair? I don't think so. Saber Mountain Venerable shrugged. If you lose, you'll only make Reverend Spiritual Su devour one more pill. What's the big deal? Haha, it's just a pill. It's not a problem for me. Smiling, Reverend Spiritual Su said, If Ningyu wins, I don't want anything else but the blue jade pendant that you have. Swoosh. Reverend Spiritual Su's faint laughter made Saber Mountain Venerable's heart skip a beat. Blue jade pendant. How did Reverend Spiritual Su know that he had the blue jade pendant? The so-called blue jade pendant was a soul jade pendant that contained a lot of pure soul power. He had spent more than a decade to collect the pure soul power in the jade pendant. He still wanted to rely on the soul power in the jade pendant to make further progress and raise his soul power to the level 9 level. Saber Mountain Venerable's face darkened as he weighed the pros and cons. After a brief moment, he gritted his teeth and said, All right, Reverend Spiritual Su, I'll agree to your request. As long as Ningyu defeats He Fei. No, as long as Ningyu defeats He Fei and He Shu consecutively, I'll give you the jade pendant. In actuality, Saber Mountain Venerable was still worried. Otherwise, he would not have suggested for Ningyu to defeat He Fei and He Shu. Chapter 1180. Begin Refining Wrong. Revered Spirit Su shook his head and said, If Ningyu wins, your soul jade pendant won't be given to me, but to Ningyu. To Ningyu? Saber Mountain Venerable was puzzled. It didn't make sense. Revered Spirit Su had gone through so much trouble. Could it be that it was all for Ningyu? It was illogical. Unless, Saber Mountain Venerable One's face took on a ghastly expression when he thought about this. Lord Lingshu has been hiding in the Great Xia Kingdom to protect Ningyu. Saber Mountain Venerable thought of such a terrifying possibility. If that was the case, then he would have to be extremely careful today. That's right, I'm not an alchemist. The soul force in the jade pendant is of little use to me. Overlord Lingshu nodded in agreement. Alright. I promise you. As long as Ningyu can defeat He Fei and He Shu in alchemy, I'll give this soul jade pendant to him, Saber Mountain Venerable said in a deep voice. Whoosh. Following that, Blade Mountain Venerable flicked his wrist and tossed the soul jade pendant into midair. The soul jade pendant that was floating in the air was constantly emitting pure soul power. Gulp. He Fei and He Shu gulped as they stared at the soul jade pendant in the air. One of them was an early-stage 8th grade alchemist, while the other was a middle-stage 8th grade alchemist. As long as they could obtain Saber Mountain Venerable's soul jade pendant, they would have a high chance of advancing to the next level. Humph! Blade Mountain Venerable scoffed, then he retrieved a storage bag and tossed it to He Fei. Here are the ingredients for refining the Spirit Extinction Pill. The Spirit Extinction Pill is a grade 7 elixir. I hope you won't let me down. Pa. After taking the storage bag, He Fei patted his chest and promised, It's just a level 7 spirit severing pill. I can make it in 10 minutes and the quality won't be lower than supreme rank. He Fei said the last two words to Ningyu. To He Fei, Ningyu was a mid-stage grade 7 elixir master and it was impossible for him to beat him. He had refined the terminating spirit pill before, and it only took him 10 minutes to refine a supreme grade terminating spirit pill. But last time, he was a peak 7th grade alchemist. Now that he had advanced to an 8th grade primary alchemist, He was confident that he could concoct a supreme-grade spirit-severing pill within 10 minutes. What's there to be surprised about refining a transcendent-grade spirit-severing pill in 10 minutes? You really haven't seen the world yet. Curling his lips, Ningyu said, the ultimate spirit pill is a grade 7 primary medicinal pill. I can refine it in 5 minutes, and its quality is also transcendent grade. Poochie. He-Fei and the rest couldn't help but laugh when they heard Ningyu's words. Refining a transcendent-grade spirit-severing pill in 5 minutes? Who do you think you are? One must know that even Saber Mountain Venerable, who was at the peak of Grade 8 Alchemy Master, dared not say that he could refine a supreme-grade terminating spirit pill within 5 minutes every time. The ignorant are fearless. Saber Mountain Venerable waved his hand, and another interspatial bag flew over to Ningyu. Let's begin. Don't waste time. Saber Mountain Venerable said solemnly when he saw Ningyu take the interspatial bag. Wait! As soon as Saber Mountain Venerable finished speaking, Dan Guzi stepped forward and said to Ningyu, "Give me your storage bag. I want to check the medicinal pills inside." It was better to be safe than sorry. Dan Guzi knew Saber Mountain Venerable's character. He wouldn't be at ease if he didn't check it first. What do you mean? How dare you suspect me? Saber Mountain Venerable said coldly. It's just a spirit-severing pill. I can't be bothered to tamper with it. I'm not suspecting you. I'm very suspicious of you. Dan Guzi carefully checked the ingredients in the interspatial bag and nodded. The ingredients are correct. There's no problem. Swish. In order to let Ningyu defeat He-Fei, Dan Guzi directly took out his personal cauldron. Dan Guzi's cauldron had 4 legs and 8 mouths. Multiple cauldrons. A good cauldron could increase the success rate of refining pills, and multiple cauldrons were already on the Heaven Cauldron ranking. Using a cauldron on the Heaven Cauldron ranking to refine pills would yield twice the result with half the effort. Dan Guzi, the difference in alchemy standards isn't something a cauldron can make up for. Blade Mountain Venerable One curled his lips and said, "It's better for you to wash your neck so that it'll be easier for me to kill you later without dirtying my saber. The battle hasn't started yet. We don't know who will win yet." Dan Guzi didn't care about Saber Mountain Venerable's threat at all. With Venerable Spiritual Void present, Dan Guzi believed that Saber Mountain Venerable wouldn't dare to act rashly. At the very least, he would be safe before Venerable Spiritual Void left. "Ningyu, I'll give you a chance. Refine your pill first. If I start first, you won't have any hope," said He-Fei. "Hee, what do you mean by hope?" "I'll give it to you for being able to concoct a transcendent-grade spirit-severing pill before me," Ningyu said with a smile. "A grade 7 spirit-severing pill is nothing to me." After smiling, Ningyu threw the cauldron above his head. His right hand stuck to the bottom of the cauldron while his left hand grabbed a medicinal ingredient and threw it inside. Sizzle! Strands of vital energy gathered on Ningyu's right hand and started to burn, emitting a scorching heat. As the energy burned, the temperature within the 4 cauldrons grew higher and higher. When the temperature of the pill furnace reached a certain limit, a medicinal herb that Ningyu had previously thrown inside emitted a chi-chi sound. With your refining speed, how can you refine a transcendent-grade spirit extinction pill in 5 minutes? He-Fei opened his mouth and stared at Ningyu with a dumbfounded expression. From the moment he threw the cauldron to the moment he refined the first medicinal ingredient, a full minute had passed. Based on this speed, Ningyu would need at least a few hours to refine the spirit extinction pill. Furthermore, it might not even be a transcendent-grade spirit extinction pill. There was a high chance it would be a low-grade spirit extinction pill. Watch carefully and learn well. He-Fei's eyes turned cold, and a palm-sized cauldron appeared in his hand. "Rise!" With a low shout, the pill furnace flew into the air. The cauldron grew larger and larger. 3 seconds later, it was several times bigger. Swish! Swish! He Fei reached into his bag of holding and took out 10 medicinal ingredients. He threw them all into the cauldron. Sizzle! The 10 medicinal ingredients sizzled when they entered the cauldron. They were all refined. 10 medicinal ingredients in 3 seconds. He Fei's actions caused Dan Guzi's expression to turn cold. If this continued, He Fei would be able to refine the spirit extinction pill in less than 10 minutes. From He Fei's confident expression, Dan Guzi could determine that He Fei would definitely be able to refine a transcendent-grade spirit extinction pill. If that was the case, Ningyu would definitely lose. Isn't it just refining 10 medicinal ingredients at the same time? What's the big deal? Ningyu glanced at He Fei and said faintly, "What's the big deal? Ha ha, who doesn't know how to brag? If you have the ability, refine 10 medicinal ingredients at the same time. No, as long as you can refine 5 medicinal ingredients at the same time, I'll admit that you're very amazing." Chapter 1181. Who will form the pill first? What's the use of admitting that I'm very powerful? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, "Are you admitting your failure because I can refine 5 medicinal herbs at the same time? You." He Fei felt his face burning after being rebuked by Ningyu. He was furious. He did not dare to bet with Ningyu. Although he didn't think that Ningyu could refine 5 medicinal herbs at the same time, there were always exceptions. If Ningyu really refined 5 medicinal herbs at the same time, wouldn't he be dumbfounded? Humph! I won't lower myself to your level. He Fei scoffed coldly and said, "Let me remind you that I need at most 8 minutes to refine the supreme-grade spirit-severing pill. You better be careful." After saying that, He Fei didn't say anything else. Instead, he focused all of his attention on refining the ultimate spirit pill. He Fei knew very well that Saber Mountain Venerable was very concerned about whether he or Ningyu could refine a supreme spirit-severing pill first. If he managed to refine the extreme spirit pill before Ningyu, everything would be fine. His position in the Alchemy Union headquarters might even rise a little. However, if Ningyu managed to refine a supreme spirit extinction pill before him, then he would be done for, and he would definitely be finished. Saber Mountain Venerable, can He Fei do it? Seeing Ningyu slowly refining the terminating spirit pill, Reverend Great Desolation was still a little worried. Getting closer to Saber Mountain Supremacy Great Desolation whispered, "Ningyu has 60 to 70 Xingyang pills with him. Nothing must go wrong." Hee, don't worry about me." Saber Mountain Venerable smiled and said, "Hefei's an early-stage grade 8 pill refinement master, whereas the ultimate spirit pill is only an early-stage grade 7 pill. He won't even need 10 minutes to refine a supreme ultimate spirit pill." If that's the case, I'm relieved. The Great Wilderness Venerable was finally relieved after hearing Saber Mountain Venerable's explanation. Venerable De Huang knew that grade 7 pill refiner, he and grade 8 pill refiner had sensed it. Without any special circumstances, it was impossible for a 7th grade alchemist to defeat an 8th grade alchemist. Whoosh! At this moment, Ningyu slapped the pill furnace with his right hand, attracting everyone's attention. With his left hand, Ningyu picked up the storage bag. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Ningyu threw the storage bag into the furnace. Voila! Ningyu's sudden action caused Venerable Great Desolation and the rest to widen their mouths as they stood rooted to the ground like wooden stakes. He Fei only refined 10 herbs at once, but Ningyu refined all the herbs and even his storage bag. Needless to say, Ningyu was really bold. Did he really have the strength, or was he just messing around? Everyone, including Dan Guzi and Spirit Void, thought that Ningyu was just messing around. This method can be used to refine low-tier medicinal pills, but how could a 7th-tier spirit extinction pill succeed? Pill Guzi was an alchemist, so he had the most authority. Ningyu's method of alchemy was suitable for alchemy pills below grade 6. Once the pill reached the 7th tier, Using this method would require extremely powerful spiritual strength control. At the very least, one's spiritual strength control had to reach a terrifying level. Ning Yu's spiritual strength is only at the mid-7th tier. There's no way he's a 9th-grade alchemist. Pilguzi's eyes turned. He wanted to find an excuse for Ning Yu, as well as a way to comfort himself. However, no matter how he tried, he couldn't find an excuse for Ning Yu. Even a 9th-grade alchemist would find it hard to refine so many herbs at once. Ha ha ha! While Hefei was refining pills, he subconsciously split out a portion of his perception to pay attention to Ning Yu. It was this touch of perception that stunned Hefei for a moment before he laughed maniacally at the sky. In fact, his wild laughter almost caused Hefei to explode his pill. Luckily, Hefei's spiritual strength was strong enough, which was why his pill didn't explode. If it was any other peak 7th-grade alchemist, they wouldn't be able to do it as perfectly as Hefei. Ning Yu, I only told you to refine 5 herbs at once. Why did you throw all the herbs into the furnace? To Hefei, he was someone who often hit others when they were down. Hitting others when they were down, hitting them when they were down, and killing them when they were down. Hefei was very attentive to these things. You should worry about yourself first. I still need 3 more minutes to form the pill. Although he couldn't be bothered with Hefei, Ning Yu still reminded him out of kindness. Huh! Hefei was stunned at first, and then he laughed wildly again. Ning Yu, you must have lost your mind. After I refine the Transcendent Grade Spirit Ending Pill, I'll help you refine a Mad Dog Pill so that you'll lose your mind sooner. Shut up! Before Hefei could finish his sentence, Saber Mountain Venerable said fiercely, If you don't focus on refining the pill, I'll kill you. As a peak 8th-grade alchemist, Saber Mountain Venerable was sharper than Hefei. According to Saber Mountain Venerable's judgment, Ning Yu had a 90% chance of refining a Transcendent Grade Spirit Ending Pill. Moreover, he was 1 step ahead of Hefei. No, I have to think of a way to stop Ning Yu. Saber Mountain Venerable's expression was grim. Stop Ning Yu from refining the Transcendent Grade Spirit Ending Pill. Those words filled Saber Mountain Venerable's mind, causing him to lose his composure. Saber Mountain Venerable. At that moment, Saber Mountain Venerable seemed to have noticed something, so he said calmly, You're a peak 8th-grade alchemist. Who do you think will win this time? Swoosh. Saber Mountain Venerable regained his composure after hearing what Saber Mountain Venerable said. Hefei is from the Alchemy Union's headquarters, so I naturally think highly of him. I'm the opposite of you. Ning Yu is a mid-stage 7th-grade alchemist. He's very talented, so I think more highly of him. Saber Mountain Venerable shook his head. So what if he's talented? Hefei is an early-stage 8th-grade alchemist. Before Saber Mountain Venerable said anything, He Shu, who was next to him, spoke coldly. Shut up. Saber Mountain Venerable glared at He Shu and said in a deep voice, That's how magical a competition is. Nobody knows who's going to win until the last moment. That's right, Saber Mountain Venerable is right, Saber Mountain Venerable said. Hefei might win, but Ning Yu might also win. Let's wait and see. Saber Mountain Venerable said coldly. Since Saber Mountain Venerable was going to intervene, Saber Mountain Venerable suppressed his thoughts for the time being. It was very likely that Ning Yu would win the first match. Drip, drip. Saber Mountain Venerable and Saber Mountain Venerable stopped talking, causing the huge room to become extremely depressing. Bang. Fortunately, the depressing atmosphere did not last long before it was broken by a clear sound. Hefei slapped the cauldron with his palm. In an instant, the lid flew up, and a round pill flew out of the cauldron. Bang. At the same time, Ning Yu, who was on the other side, did the same thing. Swoosh. The round pill flew out of the cauldron too. Swoosh. 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 At that moment, everyone in the room shifted their gaze to Ning Yu and Hefei, as well as their palms. Chapter 1182. Condition. I didn't expect you to form the elixir at the same time as me. You're not simple indeed. I admit that I underestimated you. He Fei stared at Ning Yu and said in a deep voice, I refined a supreme spirit severing elixir. Now, show the elixir in your hand to everyone to see if it's a supreme spirit severing elixir. If you're also refining a supreme spirit severing elixir, we'll have to have an additional round. If not, I'll be the winner today. Swish. He Fei's words shifted everyone's gaze from him to Ning Yu. Ning Yu, stop wasting time. Open your palm and let everyone see if you're refining a supreme spirit severing elixir. Saber Mountain Venerable waved his hand and said, This is only the first round. I didn't expect you to be so weak. Why do I need to open my palm? Ning Yu frowned and asked in confusion. Sigh. Seeing Ning Yu's reaction, Supremacy Spiritual Su sighed and expressed that he had overestimated Ning Yu. It was his miscalculation. If he had known, he wouldn't have allowed Ning Yu to compete with He Fei in elixir refinement. This doesn't make sense. According to my investigation, Ning Yu obtained the elixir of creation before. Could he have found someone else to refine that elixir of creation? Supremacy Spiritual Su looked a little disappointed. The reason why he chose to let Ning Yu compete with He Fei and the others was because he had done his investigation and knew that Ning Yu obtained a elixir of creation. Combining it with Ning Yu's performance in the Great Xia Kingdom, he thought that it wouldn't be difficult for Ning Yu to refine a supreme spirit severing elixir. Who would have thought that Ning Yu wouldn't be able to defeat He Fei and refine a supreme spirit severing elixir? Ha ha, why did you open your palm? Saber Mountain Venerable laughed out loud and responded, Of course, it's to prove if you're refining a supreme spirit severing pill. He Fei has already refined a supreme spirit severing pill, so you only need to prove that you— Wait. Ning Yu waved his hand and interrupted Saber Mountain Venerable. He asked in confusion, Who told you that He Fei refined a supreme grade ultimate spirit pill? Could it be that because both of you are from the Alchemy Union, you believe his words unconditionally? Boom. Ning Yu's words enlightened Venerable Spirit Su and the others. That was right. Whether or not He Fei was refining a supreme spirit pill was just his words, and it wasn't proven. At the thought of this, Venerable Spirit Su said, Venerable Saber Mountain, get He Fei to open his palm first. I want to see if he's refining a supreme spirit severing pill. You. Saber Mountain Venerable's face darkened. In actuality, Saber Mountain Venerable One could tell something was wrong from He Fei's eyes. The pill that He Fei refined was definitely not a transcendent grade spirit severing pill. At most, it was a superior grade spirit severing pill. Since you guys want to see, I'll show you. At that moment, Ning Yu opened his right hand slowly. In the center of his palm, there was a white pill emitting a faint mist, lying flat on top of it. Supreme Spirit Severing Pill. The elixir that Ning Yu refined was a transcendent grade spirit severing pill, and its quality was so high that it was about to break through the limits of transcendent grade. He Fei, open your palm for everyone to see. Ning Yu curled his lips and said to He Fei, If you're also refining a transcendent grade spirit severing pill, we'll have to add another round. Ning Yu threw He Fei's words back at him. Crack, crack. He Fei's expression was terrible, and he clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. Humph. Let's compete again. He Fei scoffed coldly and raised his right hand high before slamming it down. Crack. The elixir shattered and scattered all over the ground. TSK, the almighty elixir refinement genius of the Elixir Refinement Union only managed to refine a superior grade spirit severing pill and couldn't even defeat me. If this gets back to the Elixir Refinement Union, I'm sure some people will be embarrassed, Ning Yu said as he smacked his lips. I want you to die. After being mocked by Ning Yu again and again, He Fei finally lost his mind. He stomped on the ground and charged forward. Bang! However, how could He Fei succeed in his sneak attack with Supremacy Spiritual Su around? Before He Fei could get to Ning Yu's side, Honorable Spiritual Su threw a punch which landed right on He Fei's chest. The huge force forced He Fei back dozens of feet. He Fei spat out fresh blood and his face turned extremely pale. Supremacy Saber Mountain, you should know that you lost the bet. After forcing He Fei back, Supremacy Spiritual Su didn't kill him. Instead, he said calmly, Ning Yu defeated He Fei in elixir refinement. Does that soul jade pendant in the air belong to Ning Yu now? Dream on. Supremacy Saber Mountain said coldly. Let me say this first. Ning Yu has to defeat He Fei and He Shu before he can take away my soul jade pendant. Ning Yu only defeated the early stage grade 8 elixir refinement master He Fei. If he wants to defeat the mid-stage grade 8 elixir refinement master He Shu, I'm afraid he has to go home and cultivate for a few more years. Cut the crap. Compete with He Shu in elixir refinement. Ning Yu took a step forward and said, If I can defeat He Fei, I can defeat He Shu too. Want to defeat me? He Shu curled his lips and took out a medicinal dan from his robes. I am an 8th realm intermediate alchemist. But after consuming this medicinal dan, my soul strength will increase to the advanced stage of the 8th realm, making me an 8th realm alchemist. Crack! He Shu tossed the elixir into his mouth as he spoke. After chewing for a while, He Shu's soul power indeed increased to late stage grade 8. In other words, He Shu was a late stage grade 8 elixir refinement master now. The second challenge is to refine a grade 8 elixir, recovery elixir. Supremacy Saber Mountain did not waste any time. He took out 2 storage bags and tossed one to He Shu while the other to Ning Yu. But. He Shu caught the storage bag at the same time and Ning Yu split a portion of his perception into the storage bag. A while later, Ning Yu retracted his perception. It's indeed the herb for refining the recovery elixir, but, at this point, Ning Yu paused for a while before he continued, Why is there one herb missing from my portion of the recovery elixir's herb? And there's one more herb in He Shu's storage bag? Nonsense, how can there be one less herb? Saber Mountain Venerable's eyes flickered when he was questioned by Ning Yu. If you're not satisfied, I'll get you another set of herb. There's no need for that. Upon seeing Saber Mountain Venerable retrieve another storage bag, Ning Yu said, I'll use this portion of herb, but I have a condition. You're courting death. Saber Mountain Venerable was secretly delighted, but he asked in a deep voice, Tell me, what's your condition? My condition is simple. As long as I can refine the recovery elixir for He Shu first, I'll win regardless of its rank, Ning Yu stated. All right, I promise you. Saber Mountain Venerable could not wait any longer. One of the most important herbs was missing from Ning Yu's storage bag. Without that herb, Ning Yu could not refine the recovery elixir. Chapter 1183. A wide expanse, Ning Yu, don't let your emotions affect your decisions. Seeing that Ning Yu and Saber Mountain Venerable had come to an agreement, Pil Guzi hurriedly said, Let me see your storage bag. Pil Guzi, are you trying to do something? Saber Mountain Venerable said coldly. I've already given the ingredients to Ning Yu. If you dare touch them again, even if Ning Yu manages to refine the recovery pill before He Shu will still win. How domineering! Pil Guzi's expression was ugly. If it weren't for the fact that his cultivation base wasn't as high as Saber Mountain Venerable's, he would have long since fought him. How could he allow Saber Mountain Venerable to do as he pleased? Swish! With a thought, Dan Guzi turned his gaze to Venerable Spirit Void, hoping that he could uphold justice for Ning Yu. Let's begin. Unexpectedly, Spirit Su acted as if he hadn't seen Pil Guzi. Ning Yu, I look favorably upon you. I hope you won't disappoint me. Haha, a mere recovery pill can't stump me. Ningyu waved the storage bag in his hand with a faint smile. He Shu, I won't take advantage of someone when they're down. Are you ready? If not, I can wait a bit. Humph. With a cold snort, He Shu took out his cauldron, grabbed a medicinal ingredient, and threw it inside. This kind of pill refinement method? Ningyu was a bit puzzled by He Shu's actions. Before heating up the pill furnace, first throwing the medicinal ingredients into the pill furnace, he had only seen this kind of alchemy method in his previous life. He Shu's spiritual strength was only at the mid-8th rank. No, he should have used a pill to raise it to the late 8th rank. But a late 8th rank spiritual strength couldn't support He Shu's unique pill refinement method. I'm not doing this, Ningyu quickly reacted. It wasn't that He Shu's pill refinement method was special, but that there was a problem with his cauldron. He Shu had definitely heated up the cauldron. Sizzle. As expected, just as this thought appeared in Ningyu's mind, He Shu's pill furnace let out a chi-chi sound. It was obvious that the chi-chi sound represented that the medicinal ingredients that He Shu had thrown into the pill furnace had been completely refined. What an idiot! He Shu glanced at Ningyu and said in disdain, I'm not as stupid as He Fei who doesn't know how to prepare. I've long since heated up the pill furnace to the limit. In other words, the speed at which I can refine the rising revival pill has doubled. It turned out that He Shu's method was very effective. Originally, he would have needed half an hour to successfully refine the recovery pill. However, with his prior preparations, he only needed 15 minutes at most. You're quite well prepared. After being called an idiot by He Shu, Ningyu was not angry. Instead, he said, I'm just very confused. Why can even dogs speak human language? Poochie. When Ningyu's words entered into He Shu's ears, it caused his chest to tighten, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Scolding someone without using vulgarities. Ningyu's scolding method had reached the point of perfection. You only know how to use your tongue. He Shu shouted coldly, Ningyu, let's make another bet. Bet on what? Ningyu was confused. Bet your life. He Shu's expression turned fierce. If I refine the recovery pill before you, you kill yourself. If you refine the recovery pill before me, I kill myself. I can agree to it, but I don't agree with suicide. Ningyu nodded, then shook his head. What do you want? He Shu asked in a deep voice. It's simple. If you win, I'll stand where I am and let you slash me. If I win, you stand where you are and let me slash you. Ningyu said this as if it was a game. He did not feel any pressure at all. All right, I agree. He Shu took out another medicinal ingredient from his bag of holding and threw it into the cauldron. He began to focus on refining the recovery pill. Unlike He Fei, He Shu released his essence energy to form an essence energy shield around him so that he could refine the rising spirit elixir as soon as possible so that he could see everything. He didn't look at Ningyu. He didn't care about what was happening outside. He focused on refining the recovery pill. While He Shu was refining the recovery pill, Ningyu was gently tapping the cauldron. No one knew what he was thinking. Ningyu, why aren't you refining the recovery pill? Ningyu's actions caused Pil Guzi to be a bit puzzled. I'm thinking about how to refine the recovery pill. After all, I'm missing a medicinal ingredient. If I use normal methods, I definitely won't be able to refine the recovery pill, replied Ningyu. You're smart. You know you can't refine the recovery pill. Saber Mountain Venerable smirked. If you know what's good for you, hand over the Xingyang pills you have. I can get He Shu to stop refining the pill, and the bet between the two of you will be nullified. There's no way I'll admit defeat. I'll never admit defeat in my entire life. Ningyu shrugged. Saber Mountain Venerable, if I use these medicinal ingredients to refine a pill with a higher quality than the recovery pill, would it be considered my victory? No. Saber Mountain Venerable rejected him without any hesitation. Ningyu was full of tricks. He couldn't give him any chances. All right, I'm just asking you. I didn't expect you to agree. Rolling his eyes, Ningyu tossed the cauldron and the storage bag into the cauldron. Ningyu's actions made the mouths of Saber Mountain Venerable and the rest twitch. It was the same routine, and he was using the same method to refine the pill. It was a grade 7 spirit severing pill earlier, and now it's a grade 8 recovery pill. Let's see how you're going to refine it, Saber Mountain Venerable said fiercely. Regression pill. Ignoring Saber Mountain Venerable's ferocious expression, Ningyu searched his mind and found a type of pill from the reincarnation pill theory. It was a pill that corresponded to the recovery pill. The recovery pill could assist in the absorption of vitality, whereas the regression pill was the exact opposite. It could stop a martial artist from absorbing vitality. On the surface, the recovery pill and the regression pill seemed similar. Without careful observation, one would not be able to tell the difference. Most importantly, the regression pill was developed by the owner of the reincarnation pill theory, so the medicinal ingredients used were similar. I'll start refining the regression pill now. After recalling the refinement method of the regression pill in his mind, Ningyu placed his palm on the cauldron, allowing traces of vitality to enter the cauldron through the cauldron. Sizzle, sizzle. Sizzling sounds were heard when his soul power came into contact with the medicinal ingredients. At the same time, a faint flame appeared on the fingertip of Ningyu's left hand, and it kept burning the bottom of the cauldron. As the temperature of the cauldron increased, the sizzling sounds became more obvious. The hissing continued for a full 5 minutes before it stopped. Phew! Once the first segment was successfully completed, Ningyu wiped the sweat off his forehead and exhaled deeply. The first segment was the most important in refining the regression pill. If anything went wrong in the first segment, he would lose the entire game. Chapter 1184. Gasp. Squeeze. After the first stage, Ningyu recalled the refining method of the reversion pill once more and began to put his heart and soul into refining it. Although the first stage was a success, Ningyu didn't dare to be careless. He would only need 15 minutes at most to refine the reversion pill. In other words, Ningyu had to refine a reversion pill similar to the reversion pill within 15 minutes in order to win. Otherwise, he would fail. The price of failure was huge. He would have to stand still and let He-Shu slash him. He-Shu was a peak rank 8 mortal sovereign. One slash from him would be enough to kill Ningyu. Venerable Spirit Su, you seem to have a lot of confidence in Ningyu. As Ningyu and He-Shu focused on refining the pill, Venerable Saber Mountain raised an eyebrow and looked at Venerable Spirit Su. To tell the truth, this is the first time I've seen a mid-rank 7 alchemist refine an 8th rank pill. I hope Ningyu can successfully refine the pill. Venerable Spirit Su shrugged. Of course he can. There won't be any problems. Haha, to tell you the truth, the ingredients I gave to Ningyu are missing a main ingredient. Venerable Saber Mountain smiled and said in a low voice, if Ningyu can refine the reversion pill, I'll twist my head off and let you use it as a chamber pot. Haha, with that, Venerable Saber Mountain laughed wildly, his laughter somewhat unbridled. Damn it! Seeing Venerable Saber Mountain's arrogance, Dan Guzi clenched his fists and cursed. Don't be impatient. Venerable Spirit Su didn't mind and waved his hand, indicating that Dan Guzi didn't need to worry too much. How can I not worry? Without a main ingredient, even I can't refine the reversion pill, let alone Ningyu. Dan Guzi was very anxious. If even a peak rank 8 alchemist like him couldn't refine the reversion pill without a main ingredient, how much ability could Ningyu have? Could he refine the reversion pill? Let's wait a little longer. Revered Spirit Su said nothing else. Sigh. As for Dan Guzi, he sighed and turned his gaze to Ningyu, hoping to see Ningyu complete his pill first. Bang. Bang. However, the ideal was plentiful, but the reality was harsh. He-Shu had obviously refined the recovery pill before. Every step he took was very steady and his foundation was very solid. Not only did he Shu want to refine the recovery pill before Ningyu, but he also wanted to refine a high-grade or even supreme-grade recovery pill. Refining a top-grade recovery pill in 15 minutes was extremely difficult. Even peak 8th rank alchemists like Dan Guzi and Saber Mountain Venerable didn't dare say they could do it. Where did he Shu get his confidence from? Cough cough. Right at this moment, the Dark Emperor and the Reverend Talisman Marshal, who were at the side, felt their mental states improve slightly after consuming the Xingyang pills. Xialan, the Dark Emperor, and the Talisman Supremacy had recovered the fastest. Their battle prowess had already recovered to about 60%. As for Yunmu and Dong He, their auras were still very weak. Dan Guzi, will Ningyu be able to win? The Dark Emperor coughed dryly. The situation doesn't look good. Taking a deep breath, Dan Guzi said, although he Shu is only a mid-8th rank alchemist, his spiritual strength has risen to the late 8th rank after consuming the recovery pill. Based on this situation, he Shu will definitely refine the recovery pill before Ningyu. Also, Dan Guzi paused for a moment and then expressed his worry. The ingredients that Saber Mountain Venerable gave Ningyu are missing one of the main ingredient. No matter how great Ningyu is, he won't be able to refine the recovery pill. This is intolerable. Hearing Dan Guzi's explanation, it wasn't just the Dark Emperor who was infuriated. Even the Reverend Marshal and the others had ugly expressions. At the same time as they were angry, they were also very puzzled. Just what was the relationship between Reverend Spirit Void and Ningyu? Why did he choose to help Ningyu at the start, and then turn a blind eye to it now? Kiki. He Shu slapped the pill furnace with his right hand and laughed sinisterly. Ningyu, I'll be able to refine the pill in 3 minutes. You'll probably need a few decades, right? Ha. I'll borrow your auspicious words. 3 minutes is enough for me. Ningyu shrugged. You should worry about yourself first. If I refine the recovery pill in 1 minute, won't you just stand there and let me cut you with my sword? Humph. It won't be so easy to cut me down. With a cold snort, he Shu said, in truth, I can refine the pill right now. The reason I wanted to wait 3 minutes was because I wanted to refine a peak-grade recovery pill. Since you're so stubborn, I'll show you the pill right now. Swish. He Shu shot to his feet, and a berserk fluctuation of yuan qi appeared on his right hand as he slapped the bottom of the pill furnace. Bang! A crisp sound rang out from within the pill furnace. Then, everyone saw the lid of the pill furnace fly out. He Shu reached his left hand into the pill furnace and grabbed the pill tightly in his hand. Ningyu, if you kneel down and kowtow to me now, I might wait for a few more minutes. He Shu did not rush to take his left hand out of the pill furnace. Instead, he said calmly, otherwise you'd better wash your neck and wait for me, noisy. Before he Shu could finish his sentence, his eyes widened and an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. He saw Ningyu slapping the pill furnace repeatedly with both hands. Instantly, the lid flew up and a round pill flew out of the pill furnace. Swish! Ningyu's eyes and hands were sharp, and he grabbed the pill firmly in his hand. Rumble! The sudden change caused he Shu's mind to explode, and he stood on the spot like an idiot. Impossible, this is impossible. At the same time, he Shu kept repeating the word impossible. His face was filled with fear. Whoosh! Ningyu had completed the pill before he Shu. Not only was he Shu dumbfounded, but the Dark Emperor, Dan Guzi, and the others were also dumbfounded. He Shu was a mid-8th grade alchemist, and his soul force had reached the late 8th grade. On the other hand, Ningyu was only a mid-7th grade alchemist, and his soul force was only at the mid-7th grade. Who would have thought that Ningyu would complete the pill before he Shu? He Shu, what are you doing with your left hand in the pill furnace? Why don't you take it out and let everyone see if you've refined a recovery pill? The Dark Emperor chuckled and said in a clear voice. Humph! With a cold snort, He-Shu withdrew his left hand from the pill cauldron. There was also a round medicinal pill in his hand. A high-grade recovery pill. The elixir that He-Shu had refined was the recovery elixir, and its quality had reached the upper grade. Although he hadn't refined a supreme-grade recovery pill, a high-grade recovery pill was already very difficult. TSK. Chapter 1185. Aperture. He-Shu was furious to begin with. Now that the Dark Emperor said that, he felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her flushed face instantly turned incomparably pale. Stupid, I'm so stupid. He-Shu was very regretful, extremely regretful. The Dark Emperor was right. He was supposed to be the winner, and everything was because he wanted to show off his power in front of Ningyu. Sure enough, an old saying was true. Don't act cool or you'll be struck by lightning. Don't act pure or you'll be ganged up on. Hee, Saber Mountain Venerable, isn't it time to fulfill your promise now? We'll talk about He-Shu later. Hand over the soul jade pendant now, Venerable Spiritual Su said with a smile. What's the hurry? Saber Mountain Venerable was annoyed when he first saw Ningyu refining the recovery pill. While he was annoyed, he wanted to kill He-Shu. However, he quickly returned to normal after some thought. Saber Mountain Venerable waved his hand and said loudly, on the surface, Ningyu defeated He-Shu, but that's not the case. Venerable Spiritual Su raised his brow in confusion. It's simple, Ningyu didn't refine the recovery pill. Blade Mountain Venerable One would not stop until he said something shocking. Swoosh. Saber Mountain Venerable's words caused the hearts of all the martial artists, including Ningyu, to skip a beat. In particular, Ningyu was extremely nervous. The pill that he refined was indeed not the recovery pill, but the regression pill, which had the same aura as the recovery pill. I don't think he could tell that he's just trying to deny me. Even though Saber Mountain Venerable was well prepared, Ningyu still caught the evil smirk on the Venerable One's face. Since he did not notice anything, Ningyu was no longer worried. After sorting out his thoughts, Ningyu asked, Saber Mountain Venerable, what proof do you have that I didn't refine the recovery pill? If you have evidence, everyone will believe you. If you don't, you're just talking nonsense. Ha ha ha. The evidence is simple. Blade Mountain Venerable laughed out loud and said to He-Shu, hand over the recovery pill that you refined. He-Shu obediently took the recovery pill and handed it to Blade Mountain Venerable. Blade Mountain Venerable One waved the recovery pill in his hand and said, He-Shu refined a high-grade recovery pill, and there are 3 halos on it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Sure enough, as Saber Mountain Venerable had said, 3 halos appeared on the recovery pill. Pill Guzi, did I say something wrong? Saber Mountain Venerable turned to look at Dan Guzi. Correct. Dan Guzi nodded. High-grade recovery pills truly do have 3 rings. Ningyu, from your performance and the process of forming the pill, I can determine that you also refined a high-grade recovery pill. Blade Mountain Venerable changed the topic and said, let everyone see the pill in your hand. If there are also 3 halos on it, I will admit that you defeated He-Shu. If there are number 3 halos, then He-Shu defeated you. Saber Mountain Venerable, what are you trying to say? Before Ningyu could say anything, Dan Guzi said coldly, Ningyu said that as long as he refined the recovery pill before He-Shu, he would win. Why did you change the rules? Dan Guzi believed that Ningyu had refined the recovery pill. However, he did not believe that Ningyu had refined a high-grade recovery pill. Saber Mountain Venerable's words infuriated Dan Guzi, and he flew into a rage. Don't be in such a hurry. Since Saber Mountain Venerable is so interested, what's wrong with letting him take a look? Ningyu patted Dan Guzi's shoulder and said, "As for whether I refined a high-grade recovery pill or not, you'll know at a glance. It's hard to judge just by guessing." "All right, you're straightforward indeed. Hand it over," Saber Mountain Venerable said proudly. Swish. Ningyu did not waste any time. He directly threw the pill in his hand to Saber Mountain Venerable. "If this pill lands in my hand, I will make sure it doesn't emit a single halo," Saber Mountain Venerable said inwardly. "I suddenly realized that Ningyu's words make sense. As long as he refined a recovery pill, he will win no matter what rank it is." Did the sun rise from the west? Seeing how Saber Mountain Venerable's expression changed so quickly, the Dark Emperor and the others were confused. Just a second ago, he said that Ningyu had to refine a high-grade recovery pill, but a second later, he slapped himself in the face and said anything was fine. The inconsistency in his words was very reproachful. "Seal it." Saber Mountain Venerable opened his palm and sent a portion of his soul power into the pill. He wanted to destroy the halo energy emitted by the pill. Once that energy was destroyed, even a supreme grade or transcendent grade recovery pill would not be able to emit a halo. Crack! A crisp sound came from within the pill. "Saber Mountain Venerable, what are you doing?" Dan Guzi's expression turned ugly when he heard that voice. "I'm not doing anything. Open your eyes and take a good look. See if Ningyu's pill can emit a halo." Saber Mountain Venerable raised his nose in the air and looked indifferent. To Saber Mountain Venerable, Ningyu was bound to lose. Not even the alchemy sovereign could save him. Saber Mountain Venerable did not look at the pill in his hand, but He Shu, who was beside him, saw it clearly. For the first 3 seconds, there were no halos on the pill. From the 4th second onward, halos began to appear on the pill. Furthermore, with every passing second, a layer of light would appear on the pill. 6 seconds. From start to finish, a total of 6 seconds had passed. In these 6 seconds, the recovery pill in Saber Mountain Venerable's palm had undergone an earth-shattering change. From having no halo, to now having 3 layers of halo. Furthermore, the circle of light on the pill was still slowly increasing. Terrifying. Extremely terrifying. 3 halos represented a high-grade recovery pill. If 4 halos appeared on the pill, wouldn't it mean that Ningyu had refined a supreme-grade recovery pill? Sizzle. The crowd was getting more and more shocked. With a sizzling sound, the number of halos on the elixir increased to 4. Gulp. At this moment, Saber Mountain Venerable had already shifted his gaze to his palm. Saber Mountain Venerable swallowed his saliva. His eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. 4 halos. It's actually 4 halos. Behind Saber Mountain Venerable, He Shu looked like he was possessed. His eyes were dull and frightening. Awake. What? He Shu's state infuriated Saber Mountain Venerable. He raised his foot and wanted to kick He Shu. However, just as Saber Mountain Venerable lifted his right foot, he put it down again. That was because Saber Mountain Venerable noticed that the halo on the round pill in his palm was slowly increasing. Chapter 1186. One's words carry weight. Crack. Perhaps he did not want to disappoint the crowd, or perhaps he wanted to verify that Ningyu had refined a supreme recovery elixir. When the cracking sound was heard, a 5th layer of light appeared on the elixir in Saber Mountain Venerable's hand. Whoosh! 5 layers of light. At that moment, the recovery elixir in Saber Mountain Venerable's hand, which was the one refined by Ningyu, had 5 layers of light. Silence. Silence. Unusually silence. All the martial artists in the room shifted their attention to Saber Mountain Venerable and the elixir in his hand. Everyone knew very well what 5 layers of light represented. Saber Mountain Venerable had said earlier that 3 layers of light represented a high-grade recovery elixir, while 4 layers represented a supreme-grade recovery elixir. 5 layers of light represented a supreme-grade recovery elixir. In other words, the recovery elixir refined by Ning Yu was a supreme-grade recovery elixir. According to the bet between Ning Yu and He Shu, whoever refined the recovery elixir first would be the winner. After refining a supreme-grade recovery elixir, it was an undeniable fact that Ning Yu won. How could Ning Yu refine a supreme-grade recovery elixir? He Shu's eyes were fixed on the elixir in Saber Mountain Venerable's hand with a confused look on his face. He Shu would never have expected Ning Yu to be able to refine a supreme-grade recovery elixir. In fact, He Shu had expected Ning Yu to be able to refine a supreme-grade recovery elixir, but he would never have expected Ning Yu to be able to refine a supreme-grade recovery elixir. A supreme-grade recovery elixir. Saber Mountain Venerable's face was extremely ugly. If not for the fact that he was wearing clothes, the veins on his arms and thighs would have been completely exposed to everyone. Why can it still emit 5 layers of light even after I destroyed the energy inside? Saber Mountain Venerable sent another portion of his soul power into the recovery elixir to investigate. Damn it! After a while, Saber Mountain Venerable retracted his soul power, and a furious look appeared on his face. Because no matter how he probed, he couldn't find the source of the problem. Ning Yu can actually refine a supreme-grade recovery pill in such a short time. If he was given another hour, wouldn't he be able to refine a peak grade 8 pill? Dan Guzi swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Rumble. Dan Guzi's words caused the originally quiet room to explode. Although the recovery pill was an 8th grade medicinal pill, it was not the best among 8th grade medicinal pills. Being able to concoct the recovery pill did not mean that one could concoct a peak grade 8 pill. After all, even peak rank 8 alchemists like Dan Guzi and Saber Mountain Venerable wouldn't dare to guarantee success in 1 out of 10 furnaces of peak rank 8 pills. Caw. Saber Mountain Venerable's expression grew even more unsightly. He clenched his fists so hard that cracking sounds could be heard. Originally, when Ning Yu foolishly agreed to let him inspect the pills, he felt that the opportunity had come and was very excited. Who would have thought that all of this was within Ning Yu's calculations? He was fooled by Ning Yu like a monkey. Crack. Because he had used too much strength, the pill in Saber Mountain Venerable's palm was crushed to pieces. Dan Guzi, did Ning Yu really refine a supreme-grade recovery pill? It wasn't just Dan Guzi and Saber Mountain Venerable who were shocked. Even Venerable Talisman Marshall was shocked. After being together with Ning Yu for so long, Venerable Talisman Marshall had no idea that Ning Yu's skill in alchemy was so high. That was a supreme-grade recovery pill. How could Ning Yu possibly refine it? Back in the 100-Flower Palace, Venerable Talisman Marshall had seen an 8th grade alchemist refine a supreme-grade recovery pill. That alchemist had been a peak 8th grade alchemist. That peak 8th grade alchemist had spent a full day and night to refine a furnace of supreme-grade recovery pills. Furthermore, that peak 8th grade alchemist's aura had weakened after refining it, and he had to rest for 3 days and 3 nights to recover. Ning Yu's ability to refine a supreme-grade recovery pill had truly surpassed his expectations. I'm not too sure about the specifics, but from Saber Mountain Venerable's expression, we should be able to determine that Ning Yu refined a supreme-grade recovery pill. Dan Guzi nodded, then shook his head. Logically speaking, Ning Yu shouldn't have been able to refine a supreme-grade recovery pill. Just what is going on? Dan Guzi found it hard to believe that someone had refined a supreme-grade recovery pill in such a short time. It would be strange if you could guess anything. Seeing everyone's reaction, Ning Yu shrugged. The supreme-grade recovery pill had been developed by the owner of the reincarnation pill Dao. Other than Ning Yu, no one else had seen it before. In other words, even if Dan Guzi and Saber Mountain Venerable racked their brains, they wouldn't be able to figure out what the problem was. Many thanks. After sorting out his thoughts, Ningyu said to Saber Mountain Venerable. Luckily, you stood up for me at the crucial moment. Otherwise, if he Shu insisted that I didn't refine a supreme grade recovery pill, I really wouldn't be able to prove it. You. Saber Mountain Venerable's face darkened, filled with viciousness. I'm not the one who owes you millions of royal grade essence crystals and Xingyang pills. Pursing his lips, Ningyu ignored Saber Mountain Venerable and walked towards the Soul Jade pendant. Actually, Ningyu was right. The main reason he could fool everyone was because of Saber Mountain Venerable. Fortunately, Saber Mountain Venerable had crushed the supreme grade recovery pill. Otherwise, he might really have been discovered after a long time. Now that the pill had been crushed, even an immortal wouldn't be able to tell what was wrong. What are you going to do? Saber Mountain Venerable asked in a deep voice when he saw what Ningyu was doing. Ningyu stopped and said, You should know what I'm trying to do. I lost the bet, and I'm just taking back the Soul Jade pendant that belongs to me. I must kill Ningyu. Saber Mountain Venerable was secretly determined to kill Ningyu no matter what. If he did not kill Ningyu, he would not be able to pacify his anger. Ningyu, I did say that the Soul Jade pendant will belong to you after you defeat He Fei and He Shu, but Saber Mountain Venerable changed the topic at this point. It won't be that easy for you to take the Soul Jade pendant away. What do you mean by it won't be that easy? Are you going to go back on your word? Ningyu said with a smile. I'm not going back on my words. I, Saber Mountain Venerable, have never gone back on my words. Saber Mountain Venerable scoffed and uttered a shameless statement. You must defeat me in alchemy, or the Soul Jade pendant will belong to me. Pfft. Upon hearing Saber Mountain Venerable's shameless words, Ningyu could not help but spit out blood. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Saber Mountain Venerable. You're a peak grade 8 pill refinement master, yet you're proposing to compete with a middle grade 7 pill refinement master. What else can you be if not shameless? Saber Mountain Venerable, are you sure you want to compete with me in alchemy? Ningyu said hesitantly, It's not impossible, but you must make He Shu fulfill his promise first. Stand where you are and let me slash you. Chapter 1187 Ningyu, don't push your luck. Saber Mountain Venerable's face turned ugly. I've already given you a chance. Since you don't know how to cherish it, don't even think about getting this Soul Jade pendant. I'm pushing my luck? Ningyu pointed at his nose and said exaggeratedly. I remember that He Shu said that as long as I refine the recovery elixir before him, he would stand on the spot and let me slash him regardless of my rank. Are you going to go back on your words? Swish. Ningyu's words made Saber Mountain Venerable clench his teeth in anger. Although Ningyu was only a grade 3 sovereign and He Shu was a pinnacle grade 8 sovereign, He Shu might not be able to block Ningyu's full-powered attack. He Fei was already heavily injured. If He Shu was killed by Ningyu, it would be hard for him to explain himself even if he brought Dan Guzi back to the Alchemy Union. You're too much. He Shu's face was extremely dark. He unleashed his pinnacle grade 8 aura and pressed down on Ningyu. He Shu wanted to let Ningyu know that there was always someone better out there. Nonsense. Sensing He Shu's aura, Saber Mountain Venerable kicked He Shu's butt and reprimanded, I told you to focus on learning alchemy, but you didn't listen. Now that you've failed, you should be punished. Ningyu and the others were puzzled by Saber Mountain Venerable One's words. It didn't make sense. No matter how strong He Shu was, he couldn't block Ningyu's attack. Could it be that He Shu had a powerful trump card? Ningyu, He Shu, am a man of my words. I'll stand on the spot and let you slash at me. He Shu took a step forward and closed his eyes. He stretched out his neck and said, Use your flying sword to slash at my neck. Don't hold back, or I'll look down on you. The Dark Emperor couldn't help but laugh when he saw He Shu's suicidal look. The neck, head, and heart were the weakest parts of the human body. If he Shu allowed Ningyu to chop off his arm, it would definitely not be a fatal injury. Now that he Shu had asked Ningyu to chop off his neck, it was just like the saying, "If you don't court death, you won't die. Why should I let you see it?" Shrugging, Ningyu moved his feet and slowly walked toward the he tree. Ningyu's speed was neither too fast nor too slow. As he advanced, Ningyu flicked his wrist, and the red demon's sword appeared in his hand. Chi-chi. The pulsating vital energy on the red demon's sword emitted a sizzling sound as it came into contact with the air. "If you want to chop, then chop. Stop dawdling." Ningyu's slow speed made he Shu a little impatient. "Don't ever hold back." "I see." After approaching he Shu, Ningyu's mind stirred, and he finally discovered the source of the problem. On he Shu's neck, there was a layer of faint white halo. The halo was very weak, and if one did not look carefully, they would not notice it at all. Others might not know what the white halo was, but Ningyu knew it very well. The rebound halo. The white halo was called the rebound halo. As the name suggested, as long as the attack was below the level of a 9th grade human supreme, it would be reflected. The greater the strength, the greater the rebound. What a wishful thinking. If I had used all my strength to chop off he Shu, I would definitely be the one at a disadvantage. Frowning slightly, Ningyu ignored he Shu's mockery and fell into deep thought. The current situation was indeed a little difficult to advance or retreat. In Ningyu's mind, he Shu had to die today, and with the rebound halo, he Shu was almost invincible. Of course, there was still a possibility, and that was that Ningyu's attack had reached the level of a 9th grade human supreme. That was the only way for the reflective halo to be broken and he Shu to directly die. My current all-out attack is at most equivalent to a peak 8th grade human supreme, and that's under the premise of using all my strength. Ningyu was very clear about his own strength. If he used all his strength, he could only unleash an attack at the level of a peak 8th grade human supreme. This attack was obviously not enough. He had to think of another way. "Ningyu, I say you're dawdling. You're really dawdling. Are you going to cut it or not?" Seeing Ningyu's dazed expression, he Shu mocked again. "Chop, why not?" Suddenly, Ningyu's mind shook, and he immediately thought of a countermeasure. "Since you reflected the attack to me, why don't I reflect the attack back?" After a second reflection, he Shu would die for sure. Thinking of this, Ningyu said, "He Shu, I'm a little worried now." "Worried about what?" He Shu was puzzled. "What if you retaliate when I attack you?" Ningyu said solemnly. "Ah." He Shu raised his head and laughed, then coldly said, "My name, he Shu, is trustworthy. Why would I retaliate?" "That's hard to say. I'm very suspicious of your character." When he spoke up to hear, Ningyu paused for a moment before he continued, "How about this? Take out a few 100,000 royal grade origin crystals and put them aside. So long as you fight back, those royal grade origin crystals will belong to me." You. He Shu gritted his teeth in anger. He Shu extended his right hand and pointed at Ningyu. He Shu, swear that if I retaliate, I will suffer the 5-blow thunderbolt tribulation." "All right, I'll reluctantly believe you." Ningyu shrugged. "Cut the crap. I know you're stalling for time, but there's no point in doing so. At the end of the day, you still have to face he Shu." Blade Mountain Venerable was also a little impatient. He also thought that Ningyu was stalling for time. If he was really capable, he would have made a move long ago. Why would he wait until now? As for the fact that Ningyu saw through the reflective halos, Blade Mountain Venerable did not even think about it. From Saber Mountain Venerable's point of view, he was the only martial artist present who could spot the reflected light circles. This included Spiritual Void, who was also a middle grade 9 alchemist. "All right, but before I make a move, I have 2 requests." Ningyu revealed a helpless expression and said, "Firstly, He Shu has to have his back facing me. No matter what happens, he can't turn around until I step back. Second, Blade Mountain Venerable, stay away from me. I'm more afraid of a middle grade 9 sovereign. Third, Blade Mountain Venerable, you have to swear on the heavenly law that once I kill He Shu, you mustn't send anyone to cause trouble for me. Fourth, Blade Mountain Venerable, stop. Blade Mountain Venerable's face darkened when he heard Ning Yu's request. He said in a deep voice, you talk too much. Didn't you say you only have 2 requests? Why are you talking about the 4th one? Is it the 4th one? I'm really sorry, but I'm quite forgetful. Ning Yu spread his palms to express his innocence. Dan Guzi, why would Ning Yu say such useless things? Blade Mountain Venerable knew that Ning Yu's requests were meaningless. Even if Blade Mountain Venerable agreed to Ning Yu on the surface, he would definitely not fulfill his promise behind his back. Blade Mountain Venerable knew middle grade 9 sovereigns very well. Chapter 1188. Completely Intact. Psychological Attack. Dan Guzi seemed to have seen through something and solemnly said, after all, He Shu is a peak rank 8 sovereign. He's extremely powerful, and without using any magical treasures, Ning Yu wouldn't be able to get close to him, let alone slash his neck. The reason why Ning Yu is teasing Saber Mountain Venerable and stalling for time is to distract He Shu, making him flustered and exasperated. That way, he'll relax his guard and reveal an opportunity. At this time, Yun Mu hesitated and said, Senior Dan Guzi, do you think Ning Yu can injure Saber Mountain Venerable? It's hard to say. Although Ning Yu is powerful, He Shu isn't someone to be trifled with. After pondering for a moment, Dan Guzi said, in my opinion, unless Ning Yu has a trump card, He Shu will definitely be completely unharmed. In fact, Ning Yu might even be affected. Interesting, indeed interesting. As Dan Guzi and the others conversed in low voices, Venerable Spirit Su's lips curled up slightly. He muttered, He Shu definitely has a trump card, and Ning Yu definitely has a trump card as well. It's just that I don't know what it is. Seeing Venerable Spirit Su's doubtful expression, Saber Mountain Venerable snorted and said, If even you can't see through the reflection halo, then Ning Yu must be blind. Swish. Suddenly, Ning Yu stomped on the ground and charged forward. Ning Yu's speed was extremely fast. Ning Yu and He Shu weren't that far from each other. Adding on Ning Yu's speed, it only took him 0.1 seconds to arrive in front of He Shu. The red demon sword in his hand constantly flickered, emitting a hissing sound. Even the air around it started to crack. Saber Mountain Venerable could not help but laugh when he sensed the vitality fluctuation contained in the red demon sword. Ning Yu, although this attack of yours is powerful, it's only equivalent to the full-powered attack of a 5th grade sovereign. Who gave you the courage to make such a move? Really? Ning Yu naturally heard Blade Mountain Venerable's mocking words. Ning Yu stopped abruptly and turned to ask Saber Mountain the Venerable, Saber Mountain the Venerable, if I kill He Shu, will you have to pay a price? Humph. If you can kill He Shu, Blade Mountain Venerable scoffed and said, I'll call you Grandpa. Haha, I hope you won't go back on your words. Ning Yu smiled and said. As soon as the word, yen, was uttered, the Yuan Qi undulations on the red demon's sword suddenly surged. 5th grade peak human sovereign, 6th grade peak human sovereign, 6th grade peak human sovereign. In a short period of time, the Yuan Qi undulations on the red demon's sword had increased from a 5th grade peak human sovereign to a 7th grade peak human sovereign. Furthermore, it was still rising. Crack. In that instant, it was as if something had been squeezed open. The Yuan Qi undulations on the red demon's sword had reached a terrifying 8th grade peak human sovereign. Rise again. With a low roar, Ning Yu poured all the Yuan Qi in his body into the red demon's sword, instantly raising the red demon's sword's aura to its peak. Boom! A muffled sound rang out. 8th grade peak human sovereign. The red demon sword's aura undulations had reached a terrifying 8th grade peak. Human sovereign. Blade Mountain Venerable, don't blink. Leaving those words, Ningyu held onto the red demon's sword and slashed at He Shu's neck in the blink of an eye. Crack! A crisp sound rang out in the room. Whoosh! Everyone only saw a figure rapidly flying backwards. It's Ningyu! Why was Ningyu rebounded? Is He Shu that powerful? The sudden change had caused Venerable Talisman Marshal and the Dark Emperor to widen their mouths with disbelief on their faces. At the very least, he shouldn't have been rebounded. Could it be that Dan Guzi's words were true? Ningyu couldn't come into contact with He Shu, and he might even be affected by it. Judging from the current situation, Ningyu was the one that was affected. Ah! Seeing Ningyu being rebounded, Venerable Saber Mountain was briefly stunned before he roared with laughter. I told you that you couldn't do it, but you insisted on being stubborn. Now you're the one that's embarrassed. I'll take back the Soul Jade Pendant. Venerable Saber Mountain had an arrogant look on his face. Venerable Saber Mountain even came to Venerable Spiritual Su's side and said with his nose in the air, Venerable Spiritual Su, Ningyu was the one that insisted on this bet. Now that he's lost, you can't help him. Humph! Venerable Spiritual Su coldly snorted as he turned his head away. Out of sight, out of mind. In truth, even Venerable Spiritual Su was a little surprised that Ningyu had been rebounded. After all, he had a high opinion of Ningyu. In his opinion, even if Ningyu couldn't kill He Shu, he shouldn't have been rebounded. But now, not only had Ningyu been rebounded, but even his aura was a little weak. Damn it! The Dark Emperor cursed inwardly when he saw Ningyu flying back. His aura suddenly spread out. Don't be in such a rush. Seeing that the Dark Emperor was about to make a move, Dan Guzi slapped him and said, Let's wait and see. What are you waiting for? If you keep looking, Ningyu will. The Dark Emperor said anxiously. However, before the Dark Emperor could finish speaking, Ningyu steadied himself. First, he cracked his neck, then Ningyu said to Venerable Saber Mountain, Stop stalling for time. Hurry up and fulfill your promise. Call me grandfather. Ningyu, have you lost your mind? Venerable Saber Mountain pointed at his nose and said exaggeratedly, Are you kidding me? You're the one not calling me grandfather, but you're saying I'm stalling for time? What nonsense! You're the one who's mistaken. You should be the one calling me grandfather, said Ningyu indifferently. Whoosh! When Ningyu said that, the Dark Emperor and the others looked at Ningyu with strange expressions. Could it be that Ningyu had really lost his mind? A bad feeling rose in the hearts of the Dark Emperor and the others. You clearly didn't injure He Shu. You didn't even leave a mark on his neck, but now you're making Venerable Saber Mountain call you grandfather? What's wrong with Ningyu? He's acting a little strange today. The Dark Emperor frowned slightly. He is. Is it because he's afraid of Venerable Saber Mountain? That doesn't make sense. With Venerable Spiritual Su supporting him, there's no reason for him to be afraid of Venerable Saber Mountain. Dan Guzi shook his head, then nodded. In my opinion, Ningyu doesn't want to call Venerable Saber Mountain his grandfather. Who cares? Venerable Saber Mountain isn't a good person anyway. As long as Ningyu doesn't want to call him grandfather, what can he do? The Dark Emperor said coldly, Venerable Spiritual Su is on our side. He won't just stand by and watch. Ningyu, you're courting death. Blade Mountain Venerable uttered coldly with a frightening luster in his eyes. How am I courting death? You can look at He Shu and see if there's any change in him. Ningyu spread his hands and pointed at He Shu. Swish! Venerable Saber Mountain's gaze followed Ningyu's palm and looked at He Shu. Saber Mountain Venerable was rather dumbfounded when he took a look. Chapter 1189. 10,000 Emperor-Grade Origin Crystals. After a brief silence, Saber Mountain Venerable burst into laughter. Ningyu, can't you have some basis for your words? Stop with the nonsense and call me Grandpa. I'm still waiting to hear it. Ignoring Blade Mountain Venerable One's roar, Ningyu moved toward He Shu and reached out his right hand to gently push him. Boom! The moment Ningyu's hand came in contact with He Shu's body, He Shu's head fell. The crisp sound of the head hitting the ground caused Saber Mountain Venerable's eyes to widen. Even the Dark Emperor and the rest had their eyes widened with disbelief. Dead? He Shu was actually killed by Ningyu with a single slash. His head was separated from his body. To be able to stand on the same spot for a few minutes after his head was chopped off, Ningyu's means were truly formidable. How did Ningyu do it? The first to speak was the Dark Emperor with doubt written on his face. He Shu is a pinnacle 8th grade sovereign. I initially thought that Ningyu would only be able to heavily injure He Shu, or even come into contact with him. Could it be that Ningyu is pretending to be weak? His cultivation has long reached the 9th grade sovereign realm. Pilguzi's face was filled with shock as he looked at Ningyu. However, Pilguzi didn't say it out loud. In his view, since Ningyu didn't want to expose himself, then Ningyu must have his reasons. Thus, it wasn't appropriate for him to say anything. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Saber Mountain Venerable was the most shocked. He Shu was a pinnacle 8th grade sovereign. Furthermore, that wasn't the main point. The main point was that there was a reflective halo around He Shu's neck. No matter how he looked at it, the attack that Ningyu had executed earlier didn't reach the 9th grade sovereign realm. An attack with the strength of a pinnacle 8th grade sovereign couldn't break the reflective halo. How did Ningyu do it? This was the first time that Saber Mountain Venerable felt that the situation had gone out of his control, making him feel powerless. Nothing is impossible. Shrugging, Ningyu said, as long as you dare to think about it and put it into action, you will definitely succeed. I'm not like some people who don't even dare to think about it when they're already so old. They dream about unrealistic things all day long. You. Venerable Saber Mountain clenched his fist. He wanted to flare up, but he dared not do so due to Venerable Spiritual Void's presence. Saber Mountain Venerable, don't worry. It doesn't matter if He Shu dies, you can avenge him. At this moment, Venerable Great Desolation, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. As soon as Venerable De Huang spoke, he changed the topic to the alchemy competition. Ningyu said in advance that as long as He Shu lets him slash once, he will compete with you in alchemy. You can bet your life against Ningyu in the alchemy competition. Yes. Saber Mountain Venerable raised his eyebrows and uttered coldly, Ningyu, you're qualified to compete with me in alchemy, so let's refine a grade 8 pill. Haven't you forgotten something? Ningyu waved his hand and said to Saber Mountain Venerable, we've already agreed that if I kill He Shu, you'll have to call me Grandpa. Don't go too far. Saber Mountain Venerable released his aura and said coldly, I'm going too far? If you don't keep your word, then what's the difference between you and a salted fish? Ningyu revealed a terrified expression and said, Venerable Saber Mountain Venerable, of the 2 peak grade 8 sovereigns that you have, one has been killed, and the other has lost the ability to fight. At this time, as long as Venerable Spiritual Void stops you, Pilguzi and I will deal with Venerable Great Desolation. It won't take more than a few hours for Venerable Great Desolation to be killed. Once Venerable Great Desolation is killed, your end won't be far. Swish. Venerable Spiritual Void cooperated with Ningyu and released his aura at the right time. Damn it! Saber Mountain Venerable hated He Shu to the bone. Calling Ningyu Grandpa was something he couldn't do no matter what. Shameful, it was really shameful, utterly shameful. He was a high-ranking member of the Alchemy Union's headquarters, a mid-grade 9 sovereign and a peak grade 8 alchemist. If he called Ningyu Grandpa here, it wouldn't be long before the news spread to the Pill Creation continent. How would he be able to show his face in the Pill Creation continent in the future? Venerable Saber Mountain Venerable, what's troubling you? Ningyu knew that he couldn't push things too far. He pondered for a moment and said, "How about this? I'm not an unreasonable person. As long as you give me a few million Emperor-grade origin crystals, I'll exempt you from calling me Grandpa." A few million Emperor-grade origin crystals. Saber Mountain Venerable almost coughed up a mouthful of blood. Emperor-grade origin crystals were extremely precious. Even if he added all his assets together, he wouldn't be able to get a few million. "Ningyu, I'll give you 100,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals, and we'll let this matter rest," Saber Mountain Venerable solemnly said. Ningyu laughed out loud. "Aren't you embarrassed to take out 100,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals? No matter what, you're a high-ranking member of the Alchemy Union's headquarters and a peak Grade 8 alchemist. It won't be good if word gets out that you're worth 100,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals. 200,000. I can't give any more than that." Saber Mountain Venerable suppressed his anger. 2 million. Ningyu extended 2 fingers. Emperor-grade origin crystals. 1,000,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals. Saber Mountain Venerable said fiercely, "That's all I have." "Who are you trying to fool?" 1. 5 million Emperor-grade origin crystals. Ningyu said. 2 million Emperor-grade origin crystals. Saber Mountain Venerable was on the verge of exploding. If Great Wilderness Venerable wasn't stopping him, he would have made his move. Great Wilderness Venerable was aggrieved too. He had to stop Saber Mountain Venerable so that he wouldn't act rashly. Otherwise, wouldn't he be dead if Great Wilderness Venerable stopped Saber Mountain Venerable? All right. Since you're pitiful, I'll give you 10 million Emperor-grade origin crystals. The exchange ratio between Emperor-grade and Emperor-grade origin crystals is a little special. It's 1 to 1,000, so you'll give me 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals. Ningyu waved his hand and said. In fact, Ningyu had already detected how many Emperor-grade origin crystals Saber Mountain Venerable had. 10,000. Saber Mountain Venerable only had 10,000 Dharch-grade origin crystals on him. The reason why he said so much at the beginning was to give Saber Mountain Venerable an illusion. Otherwise, Saber Mountain Venerable would definitely not agree to it if he asked for 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals. Alright, you win. As expected, Ningyu's strategy worked. Saber Mountain Venerable took out a storage bag and threw it at Ningyu. "I'm afraid you won't be able to take it even if you want it." Crack, crack, crack. The storage pouch flew very quickly, and everywhere it passed, the space around it broke apart. "Not good." Dan Guzi shouted, "Ningyu, retreat! Great Wilderness Venerable, hurry up and help Ningyu." Dan Guzi's soul perception was very strong. He sensed a terrifying soul force fluctuation from the storage bag. In other words, Saber Mountain Venerable was planning to use a soul attack against Ningyu. Ningyu's soul force was only at the mid-7th grade, which was worlds apart from Saber Mountain Venerable. Chapter 1190. Unable to see through, wait a little longer. Unlike Pilguzi, Venerable Spiritual Void wasn't very worried. He frowned slightly. "Ningyu isn't that easy to deal with. What are you waiting for? Ningyu definitely won't. It's impossible." Seeing that Venerable Spiritual Void had no intention of helping, Pilguzi anxiously shouted. However, before he could finish speaking, his mouth opened slightly and his face filled with shock. Not far away, Ningyu very naturally raised his right hand and firmly grabbed the storage bag. "Many thanks, Venerable Saber Mountain. These 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals will be of great help to my cultivation in the future." Shaking the storage bag in his hand, Ningyu smiled faintly. Gulp. Ningyu's actions caused Venerable Saber Mountain to freeze in place. He couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Terrifying. Extremely terrifying. No one understood the power of this soul attack better than him. In his opinion, even Venerable Spiritual Void wouldn't dare say he could block it with 100% certainty. Even if he took 10,000 steps back, even if Venerable Spiritual Void was willing to help Ningyu would still be heavily injured. But the current situation left Venerable Saber Mountain dumbfounded to the extreme. Venerable Saber Mountain. Seeing Venerable Saber Mountain's appearance, Ningyu hesitated. You alright? I'm fine. What could possibly happen to me? Venerable Saber Mountain's expression was very unsightly. Listen up. The pill we're going to refine is called the Sky Spirit Pill, a peak rank 8 pill. Hiss. When Venerable Saber Mountain said the words Sky Spirit Pill, Guzi directly sucked in a breath of cold air. The Sky Spirit Pill was a peak rank 8 pill. Amongst rank 8 pills, it could be ranked in the front. Although Guzi was a peak rank 8 alchemist, he didn't have much confidence in refining the Sky Spirit Pill. Saber Mountain Venerable, the refinement process of the Heaven Spirit Pill is very complicated. Even with your alchemy skills, it would take you 3 days and 3 nights to refine it. Why don't you change to another type of pill? His eyes turning, Dan Guzi said without batting an eyelid, the Heavenly Yuan Pill is also a peak rank 8 medicinal pill. It's relatively fast to refine, requiring just a few hours. It's also convenient for you to compete with Ningyu. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Saber Mountain Venerable replied exaggeratedly. The primary Heaven Pill is a trash pill, so it's not as difficult to refine it as the recovery pill. I'm fine with it, but I'm afraid that Ningyu will ruin his reputation by refining the primary Heaven Pill in public. Let's refine the Heaven Spirit Pill then. I've already prepared the herbs this time, wait. Saber Mountain Venerable spoke very fast, and he could not stop chattering. Ningyu knew that Saber Mountain Venerable was avoiding the point, so he waved his hand and said, I don't mind refining Tianyuan pills. Whoosh. Ningyu's words made Saber Mountain Venerable lose all face. Saber Mountain Venerable suppressed the anger in his heart and said, I don't have the necessary herbs to refine the primary Heaven Pill on me. I do. Dan Guzi took out 2 storage pouches and threw one at Ningyu and the other at Saber Mountain Venerable. Pa. Ningyu and Saber Mountain Venerable caught the storage pouches at the same time. Ningyu put the storage pouches aside and quietly looked at Saber Mountain Venerable. Pa. Saber Mountain Venerable symbolically sent his perception into the storage pouch. A moment later, he raised his right hand and suddenly threw the storage pouch on the ground. Saber Mountain Venerable first stomped on the pouch twice before saying, Dan Guzi, are you messing with me? There's something wrong with the herbs you gave me. In my opinion, it's better to refine the Heaven Spirit Pill. With that, Saber Mountain Venerable took out 2 storage pouches and threw one to Ningyu. Seeing that his storage pouch was publicly stomped on by Saber Mountain Venerable, Dan Guzi was so angry that he wanted to attack. Don't be impatient. Ningyu patted Dan Guzi's shoulder and said, It's just a Heaven Spirit Pill. It just so happens that I've refined it before. I believe it will form in less than 3 days. Looking at Ningyu's confident eyes, Dan Guzi sighed softly and said, All right, I believe you. What's the use of believing me? Saber Mountain Venerable said disdainfully. Saber Mountain Venerable, you're a peak 8th grade alchemist. Aren't you ashamed to compete with Ningyu in refining the Heaven Spirit Pill? Dan Guzi said angrily. I'm not ashamed. Saber Mountain Venerable looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Senior Dan Guzi, I might need some time to refine the Heaven Spirit Pill. Here are some Xingyang pills. Give them to the Dark Emperor and the Sword of Evil so that they can recover to their peak state as soon as possible. Ignoring Saber Mountain Venerable, Ningyu took out an storage pouch and handed it to Dan Guzi. There were a total of 8 Xingyang pills inside. It was enough for the Sword of Evil and the Dark Emperor to recover to their peak state. Ningyu, those are my Xingyang pills. Saber Mountain Venerable's face was extremely cold. If you compete with me in refining pills, you will definitely lose. So all the Xingyang pills you have are mine. You can't give them to anyone else. Just because you say it's yours, doesn't that make me lose face? Shrugging, Ningyu said, You can scram if you don't like it. What are you still staying here for? Or rather, you can just rob me and take all the Xingyang pills I have. There was no way Ningyu was afraid of Saber Mountain Venerable. With Supremacy Spiritual Su around, what could Saber Mountain Venerable do? With that said, Ningyu's gaze shifted to Supremacy Spiritual Su. My Xingyang pills. That single glance caused waves to surge in Ningyu's heart. Are you sure you're not messing with me? Ningyu rubbed his eyes and looked at Supremacy Spiritual Su once more. It's over. After multiple confirmations, Ningyu finally determined that Supremacy Spiritual Su wasn't at his peak state. In other words, there was a high chance that Supremacy Spiritual Su was severely injured and had used a special method to disguise himself, preventing Saber Mountain Venerable from noticing anything. You've noticed? The slight change in Ningyu's expression caused Supremacy Spiritual Su's heart to skip a beat. Other than himself, no one else knew that he was injured. Even Saber Mountain Venerable, a middle-grade 9 human sovereign, couldn't tell, let alone Ningyu. Shaking his head, Supremacy Spiritual Su returned to normal. Ningyu, you're courting death. At the side, Saber Mountain Venerable couldn't take it anymore. He stomped on the ground and charged at Ningyu. Swoosh. However, there was a figure that was even faster than Saber Mountain Venerable. Supremacy Great Desolation. Supremacy Great Desolation was a step ahead of Saber Mountain Venerable as he stood in front of Ningyu. Don't be rash. Supremacy Great Desolation uttered the first half of his sentence, while the second half was directed at Saber Mountain Venerable. Supremacy Spiritual Su, Dan Guzi, it's not wise to make an enemy out of them now. Why don't we defeat Ningyu in pill refinement first? It won't be too late to make a move after we get our hands on the Xingyang pills. Swoosh. Upon hearing Supremacy Great Desolation's words, Saber Mountain Venerable immediately stopped. Actually, Saber Mountain Venerable was still rather fearful of Supremacy Spiritual Su. The reason why he hadn't killed Ningyu and the others yet was because he wasn't absolutely confident in facing Supremacy Spiritual Su. Chapter 1191. He Fei's Arrogance. Ningyu, stop wasting time. The Heavenly Spirit Pill is only a peak grade 8 pill. With your alchemy skills, I believe you will be able to form it in less than 3 days. Saber Mountain Venerable took a deep breath to calm himself down. Since you're begging me, let's begin. Twisting his neck, Ningyu threw the cauldron into the air. He took out a medicinal ingredient from his storage bag with his left hand and threw it into the cauldron. Ningyu placed his right hand on the bottom of the cauldron and released a steady stream of energy to heat the cauldron. Ningyu had been very worried when he first discovered that Sovereign Spiritual Su was injured. But now, Ningyu was relieved. As long as Saber Mountain Venerable did not discover that Sovereign Spiritual Su was injured, nothing would be a problem. In any case, Saber Mountain Venerable did not dare to act rashly. So what if I let you have a few minutes? The Heavenly Spirit Pill was very difficult to refine. Not only was the process complicated, but it also required a long time to form the pill. If one's soul perception did not meet the requirements, it would be impossible to refine the Heavenly Spirit Pill no matter how much time he had. This was what Saber Mountain Venerable was interested in. Ningyu only had a mid-grade 7 soul power. How could he refine the Heavenly Spirit Pill? Great Desolation, when I refine the pill later, pay close attention to Dan Guzi and prevent him from lending his soul power to Ningyu. Saber Mountain Venerable was not a rash person. He had made thorough preparations. Dan Guzi was a peak grade 8 alchemist just like him. His soul power was very strong. Although Dan Guzi might not be able to refine the Heavenly Spirit Pill himself, it was always good to be prepared. Understood. Just focus on refining the heavenly spirit pill. Nodding, Great Desolation said, with me around, Dan Guzi will definitely not lend his soul power to Ningyu. Swish. After receiving Great Desolation's confirmation, Saber Mountain Venerable took out his cauldron and threw it into the air, starting the long process of refining the heavenly spirit pill. The heavenly spirit pill was recognized as the hardest pill to refine among all the grade 8 pills. Saber Mountain Venerable was prepared to fight a protracted battle. Without 2 or 3 days, it was almost impossible to refine the heavenly spirit pill. Sha. Seeing Saber Mountain Venerable and Ningyu starting to refine the sky spirit pill, Dan Guzi moved over to the side of the Sword of Evil and the rest and distributed the Xingyang pills. Kacha. Receiving the Xingyang pill, the Sword of Evil, Xialan, and the rest tossed it into their mouths without hesitation and started chewing. When Ningyu first appeared, he gave the Sword of Evil and the others some Xingyang pills for them to consume. Now that everyone had obtained at least one Xingyang pill, their recovery speed was like a rocket. Who? In just 10 minutes. Sword of Evil, Xialan. One was a peak 8th grade human supreme being, while the other was a middle 8th grade human supreme being. The two of them recovered very quickly and were the first to recover to their peak state. Boom. As for the Dark Emperor, Talisman Marshal Venerable, Yunmu, Dong He, and the rest, they also recovered to their peak state half an hour later. What the F***ck, seeing how the Dark Emperor and the rest recovered to their peak state so quickly, the Great Desolation Venerable couldn't help cursing. It was great to have Xingyang pills. In just a short period of time, they had already recovered to their peak state. In fact, the Black Dog's strength had even improved. What a King Dog. Drip. Time was ticking away. In the room, Ningyu and Saber Mountain Venerable were refining the heavenly spirit pill at the same speed. Neither of them had the upper hand. Haha, Ningyu, I'm going to speed up now. Saber Mountain Venerable glanced at Ningyu while refining the heavenly spirit pill. When he saw that Ningyu was progressing at the same speed as him, his face turned ugly. Saber Mountain Venerable adjusted his state quickly. In just a second, he grinned. Don't cry later. Whoosh. Saber Mountain Venerable was a man of his word. As soon as he finished his sentence, his movements doubled, and his refining speed skyrocketed. Idiot. Ningyu rolled his eyes, and could not be bothered with Saber Mountain Venerable. In his previous life, Ningyu was a peak grade 9 elixir refinement master, so he was very familiar with pills like the heavenly spirit pill. The most important part of refining the heavenly spirit pill was the first few hours. In other words, it was the refinement process. There could not be the slightest mistake in the proportion of each herb. Even the slightest mistake could lead to the failure of the alchemy. And the better the process of refining the medicinal ingredients, the shorter the time needed for the pill to be formed. Saber Mountain Venerable would need at least a day to form the pill despite his fast refining speed. With Ningyu's steady progress, it would only take half a day or even a few hours for him to successfully form the pill. Ha, Ningyu, aren't you awesome? Now that you're refining the heavenly spirit pill, aren't you showing your fox's tail? At this moment, He-Fei, who was heavily injured, dragged his weak body and laughed. Saber Mountain Venerable has already completed 10%, but you haven't even completed 1%. You'd better hand over the Xingyang pill so that you won't embarrass yourself later on. Ningyu took a glance at He-Fei before he fully focused on refining the pill. Ningyu had nothing to say to an idiot like He-Fei, nor was there a need for him to say anything. Hey, you loser, why are you being so arrogant? Ningyu was fully focused on refining the pill, so it wasn't convenient for him to quarrel with He-Fei. However, that didn't mean that the Dark Emperor wouldn't. Raising his brows, the Dark Emperor said, "A peak grade 8 sovereign was injured by a 3rd grade human sovereign like Ningyu. If I were you, I would have fled with my tail between my legs. How would I be as shameless and arrogant as you?" What the Dark Emperor said, along with his expression and actions, made He Fei furious. Crack! Clenching his fists, He Fei said coldly, "Damned dog, let's fight if you're so capable. Are you sure you want to fight me? What's there to fight about?" The Dark Emperor was instantly interested. Although he was only a late third-grade human sovereign, he was one of the 5 absolute geniuses, just like Ningyu. As a late third-grade human sovereign, it wouldn't be much of a problem for him to fight against an ordinary late 8th-grade human sovereign. Although He Fei was a peak grade 8 human sovereign, he was already heavily injured and his strength was greatly reduced. If the Dark Emperor couldn't even deal with He Fei in his current state, then he could go home and sell his sweet potatoes. "Of course it's a life-and-death duel," He Fei said coldly. "Don't be rash." The Great Desolation Sovereign immediately said, "This is the crucial moment for Saber Mountain Venerable to refine the Heavenly Spirit Pill. You better not create trouble for him." I. He Fei's tongue seemed to be knotted as he mumbled for a long time without being able to say a complete sentence. "What about me? Since you're so interested in fighting me, I don't think there's a need to choose. Let's have a life-and-death duel, a martial duel." Chapter 1192. Another 10,000. Fine. Let me see what you're capable of. Provoked by Dark Emperor, He Fei said coldly, "Let's fight outside." As an alchemist, He Fei knew that he couldn't be disturbed while refining the Sky Spirit Pill. Thus, He Fei decided to leave the room and fight with the Dark Emperor. This way, he could vent his hatred and not disturb Saber Mountain Venerable. "Let's go. Who's afraid of you?" Clicking his lips, the Dark Emperor took the lead and left the room. "Humph!" He Fei snorted and followed the Dark Emperor out of the room. Whoosh! Seeing the Dark Emperor leave, the Sword of Evil, Talisman Martial Venerable, and the others all left the room. Damn it! Supremacy Great Desolation was furious. He had to stay here to prevent Danguzi and Supremacy Spirit Void from doing anything, but he also had to leave the room to watch over He Fei. Should he stay or leave? It was a tough choice. "Danguzi, I don't think we should go to the deathmatch between He Fei and that dog. There's nothing to see." Supremacy Great Desolation thought of a plan. "Let's stay and watch the battle between Ningyu and Saber Mountain Venerable. Refining the Sky Spirit Pill is much more interesting than a deathmatch." "Haha, I will naturally stay, but whether the Sword of Evil and the others will stay has nothing to do with me," said Danguzi with a smile. "Danguzi, let's not beat around the bush. How can we make them stay?" Supremacy Great Desolation knew that he couldn't fool Danguzi. Swish! Just at this moment, the Dark Emperor flew in from outside. 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals. As long as you're willing to take out 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals, I'll make the Sword of Evil and the others stay," said the Dark Emperor solemnly. Supremacy Great Desolation couldn't help but laugh at the Dark Emperor's words. Putting aside the fact that he didn't have that many Emperor-grade origin crystals, even if he did, he wouldn't take them out. "What are you laughing at? Even Ningyu can ask Saber Mountain Venerable for 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals. Am I inferior to Ningyu?" asked the Dark Emperor. "Damn! Compared to Ningyu, the difference is too big." The Great Desolation Venerable said, "I will definitely pay the price. 10,000 royal-grade essence crystals. Let the Sword of Evil and the others stay. It's up to them whether they want to do it or not." With that, the Honorable De Huang crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking like he had the Dark Emperor in his grasp. Idiot! The reason why the Dark Emperor entered the room was to extort some large-grade essence crystals from Venerable Great Desolation. Who would have thought that the Great Wilderness Venerable would not fall for it? Helpless, the Dark Emperor could only leave the room after saying this. Rumble! The moment Dark Emperor left the room, he started to fight with He Fei. Holy sh*t. Sensing that the Dark Emperor and He Fei were fighting, Venerable Great Desolation's pupils constricted and he hurriedly released his perception. Venerable Great Desolation divided his perception into two parts. One part stayed in the room while the other left the room. Although the Great Wilderness Venerable's perception had left the room, he did not see anything. In other words, the Venerable of Great Wilderness's perceptive ability was blocked by a layer of white fog. Needless to say, it was definitely the sword of evil and the others causing mischief. Dan Guzi, the two of you actually joined hands to deal with He Fei. This is not fair. Venerable Great Desolation said angrily. Joined hands to deal with He Fei? Why didn't I see it? Dan Guzi looked left and right before shouting outside the room, Sword of Evil, did the two of you join hands to deal with He Fei? No, He Fei gained the upper hand in the battle with the Dark Emperor. The Sword of Evil replied. Oh, did you hear that? The Sword of Evil said that they didn't join hands to deal with He Fei. Dan Guzi shrugged. Along with Dan Guzi's words, He Fei's miserable cry sounded. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Venerable Great Desolation felt embarrassed as if he had been played by a monkey. After cursing 3 times, he said, I'll pay 10,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals. In order to save He Fei, Venerable Great Desolation took out a bag of holding and said, There are 10,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals inside. Dan Guzi, as long as you let the Sword of Evil and the others come back, these origin crystals will be yours. Wrong. Dan Guzi shook his right index finger. It's not for me. It's for the Dark Emperor. Fine, fine, fine. In any case, let them in first. Otherwise, I won't give them to you to the Dark Emperor, said Venerable Great Desolation. Wrong again. Dan Guzi shook his right index finger again. You throw the origin crystals over first. Only then will I let the Sword of Evil and the others return to the room. No! Venerable Great Desolation refused. Taking out 10,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals was already a great loss for him. If he didn't save He Fei, wouldn't he lose everything? Venerable Great Desolation, I don't wish to see He Fei die again. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Venerable Saber Mountain's voice rang out in Venerable Great Desolation's mind. Rumble! Venerable Saber Mountain's words struck Venerable Great Desolation like 5 bolts of lightning. He was really unlucky today. It had been a long time since he had encountered such a dilemma. Who would have thought that he would encounter it here again? Karma goes round and retribution comes. Here. Venerable Great Desolation gritted his teeth and threw the bag of holding to Dan Guzi. But Dan Guzi checked the number of sovereign-grade origin crystals inside and said, Sword of Evil, what are you guys doing outside? He Fei isn't a match for the Dark Emperor anyway. Swish. Swish. Pil Guzi's words were very effective. The Sword of Evil, Xialan, and the others flew into the room. Crack. The white barrier blocking Venerable Great Desolation seemed to be struck by something and crumbled. Hiss. The moment the barrier collapsed, the Great Desolation Venerable gasped. Outside the room, there was no battle to the death. There was only a black dog standing upright, its tongue hanging out as it panted heavily. Where's He Fei? Venerable Great Desolation was puzzled. Did He Fei leave the imperial family and the Great Xia Kingdom as soon as he left the room? But thinking about it, Venerable Great Desolation felt that it wasn't possible. After all, He Fei was heavily injured and couldn't escape from the Dark Emperor's powerful attacks. Delicious, truly delicious. The Dark Emperor licked his lips and said, This is truly a delicacy. I can feel that my cultivation is about to break through to the peak of rank 3 human sovereign. Senior Dan Guzi, give me the sovereign-grade origin crystals. I want to break through immediately. Swoosh. The sovereign-grade origin crystals belonged to the Dark Emperor, so Dan Guzi naturally wouldn't keep them. He threw them all to the Dark Emperor. Crack, crack, crack. Catching the storage bag, the Dark Emperor took out a few Emperor-grade origin crystals and threw them all into his mouth. As the crisp sound rang out, the Dark Emperor's aura started to rise steadily. Gulp! Venerable Great Desolation stared at the Dark Emperor, not daring to look away. Chapter 1193. Breakthrough. Almost. 3 minutes later, the Dark Emperor's eyes opened. The Dark Emperor's aura was at peak late-stage third-rank sovereign, and he was just one step away from it. However, it was precisely this step that caused the Dark Emperor a huge headache. He could clearly feel that it wasn't realistic to rely on the arch-grade essence crystals to advance anymore. The energy within them wasn't enough for him to advance. Xingyang pills, I need Xingyang pills. The Dark Emperor's eyes landed on Dan Guzi. Other than Ningyu, Dan Guzi had the highest chance of having Xingyang pills. Finding Dan Guzi was definitely the right choice. After hesitating for a moment, the Dark Emperor said, Senior Dan Guzi, do you have any more Xingyang pills? 3 No. 2 I only need 2 Xingyang pills. Dan Guzi's face darkened. So many Tharch-grade essence crystals weren't enough for you and you still want Xingyang pills? If I had Xingyang pills, I would definitely give them to you. The problem was that I didn't have any Xingyang pills, so what could I give you? I gave all the Xingyang pills to Ningyu. If you need them, go find Ningyu. F***CK. I'm not asking you to go find them now. Halfway through his words, Pill Guzi's expression suddenly changed. Ningyu was refining the Sky Spirit Pill, and couldn't be disturbed at a time like this. If the Dark Emperor went to disturb Ningyu now, he might cause Ningyu's core to explode. Swish. The Dark Emperor couldn't care less. This was his best chance to advance to peak third-rank sovereign. If he missed this opportunity, there wouldn't be another one. Moreover, the energy in his body was extremely dense and had reached a critical point. He had to use Xingyang pills to break through, otherwise, it would be much more dangerous than exploding his core. Explode. After devouring He Fei and a large number of Tharch-grade essence crystals, the energy in his body had reached its limit. If he didn't replenish himself with Xingyang pills in a short period of time, his body would definitely explode. Ah! Seeing the Dark Emperor charge towards Ningyu, the worried Great Desolation suddenly laughed maniacally. Damn dog, you asked for it. You asked for it. If the Dark Emperor didn't ask Ningyu for the Xingyang pill, his body might explode. If he did, it would definitely interfere with Ningyu's refinement of the Heavenly Spirit pill. Regardless of the situation, it was very beneficial to Venerable De Huang, which made him very excited. Damn it! Although Ningyu was fully focused on refining the Sky Spirit pill, he knew the Dark Emperor's condition better than anyone else. Cursing inwardly, Ningyu reached into his bosom, took out a storage bag, and threw it to the Dark Emperor. Whoosh! The speed of the storage bag was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived before the Dark Emperor. Gotcha! Catching the storage pouch firmly, the Dark Emperor swallowed it without saying a word. In the blink of an eye, the storage bag was completely devoured by the Dark Emperor. Rumble! The Dark Emperor's aura also rose rapidly in the minute after he devoured the storage bag. Bang! When the second minute arrived, the aura of the Dark Emperor soared into the sky. What? Pinnacle Grade 3 Human Sovereign! Sensing the terrifying aura emanating from the Dark Emperor, Venerable De Huang's mouth opened wide and his expression changed. As expected of the purple-gold sky-devouring hound, his cultivation speed is shocking. Dan Guzi, Xielon, Venerable Talisman Marshal, and the rest were dumbfounded. They knew that the Dark Emperor could reach the Pinnacle Grade 3 Human Sovereign, but they didn't expect it to be so fast. I wonder if it's a good thing for the Dark Emperor to reach the Pinnacle Grade 3 Human Sovereign now. Venerable Spiritual Su's reaction was different from the rest. He glanced at the unmoving Saber Mountain Venerable, and the worry on his face became even more obvious. Everything seemed to be progressing in a good direction. However, Saber Mountain Venerable knew better than anyone that he couldn't be too anxious. Otherwise, it would backfire. When the competition between Ningyu and Saber Mountain Venerable ends, I should remind Ningyu to let Saber Mountain Venerable go. Taking a deep breath, Venerable Spiritual Su murmured, I've finally reached the pinnacle grade 3 human sovereign. On the other side, the Dark Emperor retracted his aura and was extremely excited. To be honest, before he met Ningyu, he never thought that he could reach the sovereign realm. After following Ningyu for so long, not only did he reach the sovereign realm, he even reached the pinnacle grade 3 human sovereign realm. The Dark Emperor felt his body brimming with energy. If he were to face He Fei or He Shu again, he could easily kill them. Why don't I make use of this opportunity to reach the pinnacle grade 4 human sovereign realm? The bolder one's heart was, the greater his cultivation would be. The bolder one would be stuffed to death, while the cowardly one would be starved to death. The Dark Emperor decided to go all out. He took out a few more Emperor-grade Yuan crystals and started chewing them. Crack! After eating a few Emperor-grade Yuan crystals, the Dark Emperor's aura began to slowly increase. Gulp! Seeing the Dark Emperor's actions, Dan Guzi and the rest gulped. He had just reached the pinnacle grade 3 human sovereign realm, and now he wanted to reach the pinnacle grade 4 human sovereign realm? Wasn't that too exaggerated? The Dark Emperor's advancement speed was already fast enough. If he were to reach the pinnacle grade 4 human sovereign realm, everyone would probably spit out a mouthful of blood. We must stop this damn dog. Supremacy Great Desolation gritted his teeth in anger. Ningyu didn't seem to be affected, and the Dark Emperor was trying to reach the pinnacle grade 4 human sovereign realm. Supremacy Great Desolation could sense that the Dark Emperor, who was at the pinnacle grade 3 human sovereign realm, wasn't much weaker than him. If the Dark Emperor were to reach the pinnacle grade 5 human sovereign realm, wouldn't he be able to easily contend against him? Thinking of this, Supremacy Great Desolation said in a deep voice, Damn dog, it's not impossible for you to advance, but you have to advance outside, not here. What do you have to do with where I want to advance? Since Supremacy Spiritual Su was here, the Dark Emperor was fearless. Supremacy Great Desolation's face was as ugly as if he had eaten shit. This was too much. The Dark Emperor was clearly being too much. As the saying goes, even if you can't bear it, you have to bear it. I'll let you be smug for a while longer. I don't believe that you can advance to the pinnacle grade 4 human sovereign realm. Supremacy Great Desolation glared at the Dark Emperor and started thinking of countermeasures. Suddenly, Ningyu, who was focusing on refining elixirs, felt a sweetness in his throat as he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. The fresh blood splattered on the elixir furnace, dyeing it red. The sudden change stunned Supremacy Great Desolation before he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, Ningyu, you've shot yourself in the foot. How dare you divert your attention to give the Xingyang pill to that damn dog when you're refining elixirs? If you're not dead, who's dead? If you know what's good for you, give up on refining elixirs as soon as possible. That's the only way to save your life. Otherwise, given the strength of your soul force, your elixir will explode soon. Although Supremacy Great Desolation wasn't an alchemist, he was well aware of Ningyu's current state. Exploding elixirs was a small matter, but being killed by the shockwave from the explosion was the real news. Don't try to scare me. Chapter 1194. As soon as the Dark Emperor finished speaking, Ningyu spat out another 2 mouthfuls of fresh blood. Ningyu's face turned extremely pale and his body started to sway. As Ningyu swayed, the cauldron in his hand also started to shake violently and looked like it was going to fall to the ground. Ha ha ha! Supremacy Great Desolation wanted to mock the Dark Emperor. However, when he saw Ningyu's condition, he couldn't help but laugh maniacally. Ningyu's condition was really not good. Without external help, Ningyu might not die, but it was only a matter of time before his elixir exploded. Supremacy Spiritual Void, Dan Guzi, you can't step in to help Ningyu. Supremacy Great Desolation rolled his eyes and said in a clear voice, the competition between Ningyu and Saber Mountain Supremacy has to be fair. No one can interfere. Don't worry, they won't interfere. Before Supremacy Spiritual Void and the others could say anything, Ningyu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said indifferently, because I'll be able to form my elixir in a few hours. Supremacy Great Desolation was stunned when he heard Ningyu's words. Then, he started laughing maniacally. After laughing maniacally, Supremacy Great Desolation said in disdain, you might be mistaken about the difference between a heavenly spirit pill and an ordinary grade 8 elixir. Among grade 8 elixirs, the heavenly spirit pill is one of the most difficult to refine. Even Saber Mountain Supremacy wouldn't dare to say that he could refine it in a few hours. Who do you think you are? How dare you spout such nonsense? Idiot! Ningyu rolled his eyes and left these two words. Then, he didn't say anything else. The mouthful of blood was purposely spat out by Ningyu. According to the reincarnation pill Tao, medicinal ingredients that were stained with blood could greatly reduce the time needed to refine the heavenly spirit pill. Therefore, Ningyu did as he was told. Originally, Ningyu needed a day or two to refine the heavenly spirit pill. But now, he only needed a few hours at most to be able to refine the heavenly spirit pill. This span of time was extremely long. Damn it! I want to see just how you refine the heavenly spirit pill. Venerable Great Desolation clenched his fists and his face was filled with viciousness. To Venerable Great Wilderness, victory would only be achieved if Saber Mountain Venerable managed to refine the heavenly spirit elixir before Ningyu and won the Xingyang pills from Ningyu. Everything else was a failure. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours passed. Bang, bang. Several muffled sounds were suddenly heard coming from the furnace in front of Saber Mountain Venerable. It's about to form? Venerable Great Desolation asked in confusion as he fixed his gaze on Blade Mountain Venerable's furnace. If you don't speak, no one will think you're mute. Saber Mountain Venerable spoke faintly, and he sounded rather displeased. As a peak grade 8 elixir refinement master, Saber Mountain Venerable hated being disturbed during the process of refining elixirs. Hefei's insistence on competing with the Dark Emperor had already caused him a lot of trouble and delayed the time he needed to form his elixir. Now that Venerable Great Wilderness was making irresponsible remarks, he was extremely displeased. Venerable Great Wilderness looked a little awkward. He had good intentions as he was hoping that Saber Mountain Venerable could form his elixir before Ningyu. However, it backfired and angered Saber Mountain Venerable. Feeling helpless, Venerable Great Wilderness could only choose to keep his mouth shut. Bang, 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 bang. 3 muffled sounds were heard from Ningyu's furnace right after Saber Mountain Venerable. Upon seeing that, Venerable Great Wilderness opened his mouth wide as though he wanted to say something. However, he hesitated. He had to learn to be smarter or he wouldn't even know how he died. This was a small episode. Neither Ningyu nor Saber Mountain Venerable managed to form their elixirs. Time passed by quickly. In the blink of an eye, another 3 hours had passed. Bang! Saber Mountain Venerable suddenly opened his eyes and slapped his furnace with his right hand. Instantly, a round elixir rushed out of the furnace. Ha ha ha! Venerable Great Wilderness couldn't help but laugh when he saw the elixir rushing out. Ningyu, Saber Mountain Venerable has formed his elixir. Hurry up and hand over your Xingyang pills. Ningyu actually lost. Saber Mountain Venerable is a peak grade 8 elixir master. It's reasonable for Ningyu to lose to him. No, it's not that simple. Dan Guzi stood on the spot and stared at the elixir in Saber Mountain Venerable's hand. Not that simple? Could it be that Saber Mountain Venerable didn't refine the Heaven Spirit Elixir but the Earth Spirit Elixir? Venerable Great Wilderness curled his lips and mocked. You're really smart. However, Saber Mountain Venerable didn't refine the Earth Spirit Elixir but the embryonic form of the Heaven Spirit Elixir. Dan Guzzi came to a sudden realization and regained his composure. In summary, there are 2 steps to refining the Heaven Spirit Elixir. First, refine the embryonic form of the Heaven Spirit Elixir. Second, form the elixir. Saber Mountain Venerable only managed to refine the embryonic form of the Heaven Spirit Elixir. He's still worlds away from forming the elixir. This Venerable Great Wilderness was speechless. He wasn't an elixir master and wasn't too clear about the knack of refining the Heaven Spirit Elixir. All he knew was that the Heaven Spirit Elixir was a peak grade 8 elixir that was extremely difficult to refine. Even peak grade 8 elixir masters would find it hard to successfully refine it. Who would have thought that there would be such a thing? Luckily, I didn't go overboard with my words. Venerable Great Wilderness rejoiced. If he had angered Saber Mountain Venerable further, he could forget about getting his Xingyang pills. Bang! At this moment, Ningyu slapped his palm towards the cauldron. Swish! The lid flew up and a pill flew out of the cauldron. Because of Saber Mountain Venerable's mistake, Venerable Great Wilderness didn't say anything and simply revealed a look of disdain. What? The elixir was formed. Even though Venerable Great Wilderness didn't have much of a reaction, it didn't mean that Dan Guzzi and the rest didn't react. Especially Dan Guzzi, who jumped up in shock. Because in Ningyu's hand, there was a round pill lying flat on the table. The pill wasn't big, but it was very round and there was a thick white mist coming out of it. It looked very dreamy. What's there to be surprised about? It's just an embryonic form of the Heaven Spirit Elixir. Venerable Great Wilderness pursed his lips and said indifferently, Dan Guzzi, don't make a fuss here. If you have time, you should rest early. It's also good. What? However, before Venerable Great Wilderness could finish his sentence, he was stunned on the spot. No matter how stupid Venerable Great Wilderness was, he could tell that the pill in Ningyu's hand was different from the one in Saber Mountain Venerable's hand. In other words, the Heaven Spirit Elixir that Ningyu refined was most likely not an embryonic form, but a real Heaven Spirit Elixir. Sigh, some people really live in dreams. Before Ningyu could say anything, the Dark Emperor sighed softly and said, Ningyu refined the real Heaven Spirit Elixir. You're the one who doesn't understand the Pill Dao. You're an idiot in the Pill Dao. How dare you criticize him? The Dark Emperor had learned from Dan Guzzi that Ningyu had indeed refined the Heaven Spirit Elixir. Otherwise, why would he mock Venerable Great Wilderness like this? The Dark Emperor prided himself on being a rational person. Before mocking others, he had to have a target to mock. He couldn't just mock blindly. That wouldn't be good. Crack. On the side, Saber Mountain Venerable crushed an Emperor-grade origin crystal in his hand with an interesting expression. Chapter 1195. Breakthrough. How can this be fake? The Dark Emperor rolled his eyes. Saber Mountain Venerable, I remember that you and Ningyu bet on the Soul Jade Pendant. Now that Ningyu refined the Sky Spirit Pill before you, can you hand over the Soul Jade Pendant now? Humph. Saber Mountain Venerable snorted. Bring the pill over for me to check. I, Saber Mountain Venerable, am a man of my word. As long as I can confirm that Ningyu refined the Sky Spirit Pill, I will immediately hand over the Soul Jade Pendant. Do you think Ningyu is an idiot? Or do you think we're all idiots? To the side, Pill Guzzi's expression was very ugly. He coldly said, as a peak rank 8 alchemist, you should know better than anyone that your words are just to stall for time. Dan Guzzi, you don't have the right to speak here. The Great Desolation Venerable felt that this was his chance to show off, so he took a step forward. If I don't have the right to speak, do you think you have the right to speak? Dan Guzzi said, "This is an exchange between alchemists. You'd better stay where you are." You. The Great Desolation Venerable's expression turned ugly after being looked down upon by Dan Guzzi. "All right, Ning Yu, the Sky Spirit Pill has a special characteristic. It can allow a third-grade sovereign to advance by 2 levels unconditionally." With a thought, Saber Mountain Venerable said, "You're an early grade 3 human supreme. As long as you can consume this heavenly spirit pill and successfully advance to a late grade 3 human supreme, I'll admit that you've refined a heavenly spirit pill." At this point, Blade Mountain Venerable One paused for a while before he continued. "You will have to hand over all your Xingyang pills and Emperor-grade origin crystals to me." "Haha, you really have a good plan." Ningyu smiled and said. Ningyu understood the effects of the Sky Spirit Pill very well. There was a certain chance that it could allow a third-grade sovereign to advance by 2 levels. According to Ningyu's observation, this Sky Spirit Pill could only allow him to advance to intermediate third-grade sovereign. 2 levels? It was extremely difficult. "What do you mean? Doing this is good for both of us?" Saber Mountain Venerable asked. "You've successfully advanced to a third-grade late-stage human venerable, so your abilities will increase by a lot too. Why not?" "All right, I promise you." After pondering for a moment, Ningyu nodded and said, "I can't accept it." As soon as Ningyu finished speaking, Dan Guzzi hurriedly said, "Although the Heavenly Spirit Pill can allow a third-rank alchemist to advance by 2 ranks, there's only a certain chance. In your current state, if you swallow the Heavenly Spirit Pill, you'll only have a 10% chance of advancing to the late third-rank human sovereign." Ningyu wasn't the only one who knew the effects of the Heavenly Spirit Pill. Dan Guzzi also knew. If Ningyu was at his peak, he might even be able to advance to the third-grade late-stage human supreme. However, the current Ningyu would find it difficult to even advance to the third-grade middle-stage human sovereign realm, let alone the third-grade late-stage human sovereign realm. "It's fine. I know what I'm doing." Ningyu knew that Dan Guzzi was saying this for his own good. He waved his hand and said, "Take a few steps back. When I advance to the third-grade late-stage human sovereign realm, my aura might hurt you." Hearing Ningyu's arrogant words, the Great Desolation Venerable finally couldn't hold it in and laugh. "Aren't you afraid of cutting your tongue with your big words? Even if you advance to the third-grade late-stage human sovereign realm, you still won't be able to hurt that old fox Dan Guzzi." Saber Mountain Venerable, prepare the Soul Jade Pendant. Ningyu didn't care about the Great Desolation Venerable at all. He glanced at the Saber Mountain Venerable and threw the Heavenly Spirit Pill into his mouth. No one noticed that a Xingyang pill had quietly appeared in Ningyu's sleeve. Crack! The Xingyang pill shattered and the terrifying energy was absorbed into Ningyu's body. At the same time, the Heavenly Spirit Pill entered Ningyu's stomach and shattered with a loud bang. The violent energy pulsated within Ningyu's body. "Suppress it." With a thought, Ningyu hurriedly revolved the spirit transformation technique and started to control the energy in his body. Huff! With every small circulation of energy, Ningyu slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Boom! With every large circulation, Ningyu's aura grew a little stronger. He really might advance to the third-grade late-stage human sovereign realm. Seeing Ningyu's aura grow stronger and reach the third-grade early-stage human sovereign realm in a short period of time, Reverend Spiritual Su murmured. As time passed, the restless black gas within Reverend Spiritual Su's body was also constantly attacking the seal. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the black gas completely exploded. Once it broke through the seal, the consequences would be unimaginable. Dan Guzzi, could it be that Ningyu can really advance to the third-grade late-stage human sovereign realm? The Dark Emperor asked hesitantly when he felt the aura erupting from Ningyu's body. "It's hard to say. But from the looks of it, Ningyu's advancement to the third-grade mid-stage human sovereign realm is already a done deal," Dan Guzzi said solemnly. Rumble. At this moment, a terrifying aura emanated from Ning Yu's body. Third grade mid-stage human sovereign realm. At this moment, Ning Yu advanced from the third grade early stage human sovereign realm to the third grade mid-stage human sovereign realm. After advancing to the third grade mid-stage human sovereign realm, the speed at which Ning Yu's aura was rising slowed down significantly. In fact, after a few minutes, it even seemed like it was going to stop. Ning Yu, looks like you're not refining the heavenly spirit pill. Advancing to the third grade mid-stage human sovereign realm is already your limit. Saber Mountain Venerable crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Ning Yu with interest. If you know what's good for you, hand over the Xingyang pills as soon as possible. This way, it'll save everyone a lot of time. Swish. It seemed like Saber Mountain Venerable's words had an effect. Ning Yu flipped his wrist and an interspatial bag appeared in his hand. There are over 50 Xingyang pills left in here. Do you want them? Ning Yu asked indifferently as he waved the interspatial bag in his hand. No! The Dark Emperor shouted. Ning Yu, the heavenly spirit pill in your body hasn't been refined yet. Why don't you hand them over to me? I'll devour them all at once. Humph! Saber Mountain Venerable snorted. Ning Yu's chances of advancing to the third grade late stage human sovereign realm are slim. Do you want to waste everyone's time? Saber Mountain Venerable, there's no need to be angry. Ning Yu was still as calm as ever. Before I hand the Xingyang pills to you, I'd like to take a look at your soul jade pendant. I'd like to see how much pure soul power there is in it. I'll let you take a look. With a thought, Saber Mountain Venerable controlled the soul jade pendant in midair, causing a terrifying soul power fluctuation to burst out. This soul power is only a tenth of the soul power in the soul jade pendant. Saber Mountain Venerable laughed sinisterly. Hee, hurry up and toss the Xingyang pills over. If there's a chance in the future, I'll introduce you to the headquarters of the Alchemy Union. You're wrong. With a flick of his wrist, Ning Yu kept the interspatial bag into his storage ring. Chapter 1196. Rumble. Ning Yu's aura soared once again. How is this possible? Saber Mountain Venerable's mouth widened as he sensed Ning Yu's soaring aura. With Ning Yu's current state, it was impossible for him to jump 2 ranks from initial third-grade human sovereign to advanced third-grade human sovereign after consuming the heavenly spirit pill. However, Ning Yu's current state had completely exceeded Saber Mountain Venerable's expectations. Crack! Ning Yu paid no attention to Saber Mountain Venerable's astonishment as the monarch-grade origin crystals in his storage ring continuously shattered. Dense origin chi flew out from the storage ring and entered his body through his skin. Ning Yu's actions were done very stealthily, to the point that Saber Mountain Venerable failed to notice anything amiss. My heavenly spirit pill. Not only did Ning Yu's actions astonish Saber Mountain Venerable, even the Dark Emperor and the rest were shocked. The Dark Emperor and the rest stared at Ning Yu, not daring to relax. Boom! Ning Yu did not disappoint the Dark Emperor and the rest. A brief moment later, a terrifying aura soared into the sky from Ning Yu's body. Advanced third-grade human sovereign. In just a few minutes, Ning Yu had undergone a transformation. He had advanced from intermediate third-grade human sovereign to advanced third-grade human sovereign. Even if Ning Yu had consumed the heavenly spirit pill, it was still shocking. Phew! After advancing to advanced third-grade human sovereign, Ning Yu let out a breath of turbid air with excitement on his face. Truth be told, Ning Yu was quite excited to be able to advance to advanced third-grade human sovereign. With his current strength, he could basically kill an ordinary 8th-grade human sovereign in an instant. He could even easily defeat a pinnacle 8th-grade human sovereign. Naturally, Ning Yu still couldn't confront a 9th-grade sovereign. It was so much so that he couldn't even withstand a single move. After all, there was an insurmountable gap between a 9th-grade human sovereign and an 8th-grade human sovereign. Xiao. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He stomped his feet on the ground, and his body shot out in an instant. Not good. Saber Mountain Venerable One only came back to his senses when Ningyu flew past him, and he yelled furiously, "Return it to me!" "Return it to you? This is what I deserve. Why should I return it to you?" Shaking the soul jade pendant in his hand, Ningyu said doubtfully, "You lost to me twice, so this soul jade pendant naturally belongs to me." Saber Mountain Venerable roared crazily. "You took my soul jade pendant, I want you dead!" Saber Mountain Venerable was on the verge of going mad. He roared as he charged at Ningyu, wanting to kill Ningyu. "Saber Mountain Venerable, you mustn't." Relatively speaking, the Great Wilderness Venerable knew his own limits. As the saying went, where there's life, there's hope. If Saber Mountain Venerable were to face Venerable Spiritual Su in his current state, there was an 80% chance that he would die. Once Saber Mountain Venerable died, there would be no way out for him. Therefore, for the sake of his own life, Great Wilderness Venerable could only desperately stop Saber Mountain Venerable. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. This is your code of conduct. That was what Great Wilderness Venerable said on the surface, but he was actually saying something else. Where there's life, there's hope. Now that Ningyu has Venerable Spiritual Su and Dan Guzi with him, we need to take our time to think about it. Take our time to think about it. As a 9th grade middle stage human sovereign, Saber Mountain Venerable was not an impulsive person. The reason why he was angry earlier was that Ningyu had taken away the soul jade pendant that he had been collecting for many years. After Great Wilderness Venerable's reminder, Saber Mountain Venerable immediately reacted. "Ningyu, revered Spirit Su, the mountains will not change, and the rivers will continue to flow. Just you wait." Leaving behind those cold words, Saber Mountain Venerable tore through the void and disappeared. "The next time I come, I'll definitely bring Lu Wei away." Great Wilderness Venerable glared at Ningyu and left behind those words before disappearing into the void. "Chase, hurry up and chase." Seeing that Saber Mountain Venerable and Great Wilderness Venerable had left, the Dark Emperor said hurriedly, "Killing someone without killing him would cause endless trouble." However, just as the Dark Emperor finished his sentence, Venerable Spiritual Su felt a sweetness in his throat. The black gas in his body erupted completely, and he spat out a mouthful of black blood. "What's going on?" The Dark Emperor was a little dumbfounded. Wasn't Venerable Spiritual Su a 9th grade middle stage human sovereign? Why did he spit blood? And it was black blood. The Dark Emperor knew very well what black blood meant. Venerable Spiritual Su was injured. Given Venerable Spiritual Su's strength, he actually allowed Ningyu to compete with Saber Mountain Venerable in elixir refinement. To be honest, the Dark Emperor was puzzled at the start. But now, he finally understood everything. How could an injured Venerable Spiritual Su be a match for Saber Mountain Venerable? While he was shocked, the Dark Emperor was also glad that he did not make things difficult for Venerable Great Wilderness Venerable and Saber Mountain Venerable. Otherwise, if they were to fight, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Dan Guzi, do your best to protect me. I'm going to treat Venerable Spiritual Su." Ningyu already knew that Venerable Lord Lingxi was injured, so he did not make a fuss. Instead, he said in a deep voice, "Blade Mountain Venerable and Great Wilderness Venerable aren't easy to deceive. I reckon that they'll be back in a few hours, so don't let anyone disturb me during this period." Gasp! Hearing Ningyu's words, Dan Guzi and the others sucked in a cold breath of air. With Venerable Spiritual Su injured, their strength had decreased by several fold. If Venerable Saber Mountain Venerable were to return now, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ouyang Luan. Ignoring the shock of Dan Guzi and the rest, Ningyu said again, "I know that the Imperial family has a formation. Here are 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals. If Venerable Saber Mountain Venerable and the rest come, use these origin crystals to activate the formation. That way we can hold them off for as long as we can. Swish. With that, Ningyu flicked his wrist and threw the storage bag to Ouyangluan. Pa. Catching the storage bag firmly, Ouyangluan nodded and hurriedly left to prepare for the activation of the formation. The imperial family's formation had not been activated for a long time. Before activating it, there were many things that needed to be prepared. Emperor-grade origin crystals alone were not enough. Dan Guzi, go help Ouyangluan. You must ensure that the formation can operate smoothly. After thinking for a moment, Ningyu said to Dan Guzi. Understood. Dan Guzi knew the severity of the situation. He did not stay in the room for long and immediately left. Following closely behind him, the Dark Emperor, Venerable Talisman Marshal, the Sword of Evil, Xielan, Yunmu, Dong He, and the others all left the room in unison. Once they were gone, Venerable Spiritual Su dragged his exhausted body and said, Ningyu, before I die, I'll tell you a few things first. In truth, I come from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, and am good friends with your mother, Mu Yunshan. The reason I stayed in the Grand Xia Kingdom is because... Pff. As he spoke, Venerable Spiritual Su felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out another mouthful of black blood. Healing is more important. Ningyu pressed down on Venerable Spiritual Su's shoulder and sat down cross-legged. Chapter 1197. Full Power. As the Yuan Qi entered Sage Spiritual Su's body, Ningyu also sent a wisp of perception into Sage Spiritual Su's body. Hiss! Ningyu sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what it was. The condition of Sage Spiritual Su's body could only be described in one word: miserable. To use one word to describe it, it was very miserable. What kind of gas is this? How can it be so corrosive? Ningyu's expression became extremely grave. Since his rebirth, he had seen a lot of corrosive gases. Even the new corrosive gas developed by the corpse insect was far less corrosive than the black gas in Sage Spiritual Su's body. Ningyu, don't waste your energy. You can't cure me. Sage Spiritual Su's weak voice sounded. It was obvious that Sage Spiritual Su knew his situation very well. He had fought with the black gas in his body for many years, but he still lost in the end. Disappointment, frustration, and all kinds of emotions appeared in Sage Spiritual Su's heart, making him look a little dispirited. Sage Spiritual Su, what kind of gas is in your body? Ningyu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Find the right medicine. Only by knowing what gas was in Sage Spiritual Su's body could he better find the right medicine and find a way to cure it. Otherwise, working blindly like this would only get half the result with twice the effort. It's the Emperor God Qi of Divine Emperor Palace. After thinking about it, Sage Spiritual Su decided to tell Ningyu. Your mother was originally betrothed to the Emperor God Palace Master, but your father beat her to it. So the Emperor God Palace Master flew into a rage and sent experts to kill the three of you. Your mother lured away the experts from Emperor God Palace by herself, and I took you and your father to escape. At that time, a 9th-grade human supreme from Emperor God Palace was following me closely. I had no choice but to find a way to keep you and your father in the Magic Beast Mountain range, and then fought with that expert. Although I killed that expert with all my strength, I was also seriously injured. That expert injected a strand of Emperor God Qi into my body. After listening to revered Spirit Su's story, Ningyu's expression turned ugly. Originally, he thought that what happened to his mother had nothing to do with the Emperor Divine Palace. Who would have thought that there was such a secret? Ningyu, don't be so busy. The corrosive power of the Emperor Divine Qi is extremely strong. I may not have long to live. I see that your talent and aptitude are not bad. Take advantage of this last period of time. I will give you enlightenment. With that, Supremacy Lingshu abruptly turned around and placed both hands on Ningyu's head. Dense vital energy flowed through Supremacy Lingshu's palm and into Ning Yu's mind. Rumble. At this moment, Ning Yu felt a splitting pain in his head. The essence chi in his sea of consciousness once again soared at an extremely terrifying speed. In just a few seconds, Ning Yu had already touched the threshold of pinnacle third-grade human sovereign. If this went on, it wouldn't take long for Ning Yu to reach the pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm. Senior Lingshu, stop! Although Ning Yu knew that he would definitely be able to reach the pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm in a short period of time. But that would come at the expense of Supremacy Lingshu. Both he and his parents were indebted to Supremacy Lingshu. Stepping on his benefactor's corpse to increase his cultivation was something that Ning Yu could not do. Don't struggle. You're only a pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm late stage, and I'm a pinnacle ninth-grade sovereign realm mid-stage. Although I'm injured, I can still suppress you. You won't be able to move at all. Supremacy Lingshu was determined to give Ning Yu enlightenment. With every passing second, the vital energy in Supremacy Lingshu's body weakened a little, while the vital energy in Ning Yu's sea of consciousness increased a little. This situation left Ning Yu helpless. Bang! About 10 minutes later, a muffled sound came from Ning Yu's sea of consciousness. At this moment, Ning Yu had advanced from pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm to pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm. The speed of his advancement was so fast that it made people click their tongues. Before the alchemy competition with Venerable Saber Mountain and the rest, Ning Yu was only in pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm. How long had it been? He had actually advanced to pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm. If it was in the past, Ning Yu would definitely not have believed it. Pfft. Ning Yu had advanced to pinnacle third-grade sovereign realm, but Supremacy Lingshu's condition was extremely dangerous. Black blood spurted out and Supremacy Lingshu's palm on Ning Yu's head began to loosen. Swoosh. This 1 second of loosening gave Ning Yu the opportunity to leave. Soul power. Ning Yu was not the kind of person to give up easily. He felt that Supremacy Lingshu could still be saved. Therefore, Ning Yu directly sent his soul power into Supremacy Lingshu's body and began to slowly help Supremacy Lingshu expel the black gas. However, as soon as Ning Yu's soul power came into contact with the black gas, it was as if it had encountered something terrifying and turned into nothingness. The corrosiveness is so strong. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu gathered all his soul power in one place, planning to expel the black gas from his heart first. Rustle. As it turned out, Ning Yu's method worked. As time passed, the black gas around Supremacy Lingshu's heart was slowly forced out of his body. Ning Yu's soul power was only at pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm. He had only helped Supremacy Lingshu expel a wisp of Emperor Divine Aura, but he was already sweating profusely and spitting out a mouthful of blood. No, my soul power is too weak. Looking at the unconscious Supremacy Lingshu, Ning Yu's face darkened. At this rate, even if he was paralyzed from exhaustion, he could only help Supremacy Lingshu expel a little bit of Emperor Divine Aura. The only thing he could do now was to find a way to improve his soul power again. Screw it! With a determined look, Ning Yu flicked his wrist and threw the soul jade pendant that he had received from Saber Mountain Venerable into his mouth. Crack! As soon as the jade pendant entered his mouth, Ning Yu started chewing without a care in the world. After the jade pendant shattered, a terrifying soul power burst out and rampaged through Ning Yu's body. Suppress it! Ning Yu hurriedly released his pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm soul power and began to devour the rich soul power in the jade pendant. Fortunately, the soul power in the jade pendant was pure. Otherwise, Ning Yu's risk this time was enough to turn him into ashes. After spitting out several mouthfuls of blood, Ning Yu's tense nerves finally relaxed a little. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. Ning Yu's soul power had advanced from pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm to pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm. Not enough. Continue devouring. The strength of a pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm's soul power could not completely expel the Emperor Divine Aura from Supremacy Lingshu's body, so Ning Yu continued to devour the soul power. Bang! The pure soul power contained in the soul jade pendant was too strong. In just a minute, Ning Yu's soul power had advanced from pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm, from pinnacle 7th grade sovereign realm. Again, glancing at Supremacy Lingshu, Ning Yu devoured the pure soul power again. While Supremacy Lingshu could still hold on for a while, Ning Yu needed to increase his soul power as soon as possible. Chapter 1198. Thousand Ghost Soul Devouring Flag. O Yangluan, how long has it been since your Imperial Great Array was activated? While Ning Yu was doing his best to increase the strength of his soul force, in a certain secret room in the Imperial Palace, there were 2 martial artists in the secret room. One was O Yangluan and the other was Dan Guzi. In front of them was a circular altar, surrounded by 4 huge stone pillars. However, the stone pillar was covered in a thick layer of dust and looked very shabby. O Yangluan didn't dare to tarry and obediently replied, "I don't know either." Dan Guzi's face darkened. "You're the controller of the Imperial family, yet you don't know when the last time the Imperial family's great array was activated?" Dan Guzi's expression gradually turned cold. "Even now, you still dare to lie. It seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Buzz. As a result, Dan Guzi released his aura, slightly suppressing O Yangluan. "Senior, I really don't know." Sensing Pil Guzi's terrifying aura, O Yangluan hastily said, "The Imperial family has no records of this grand formation." "Is that true?" asked Pil Guzi. "Absolutely." O Yangluan nodded. "Then even you don't know how powerful this formation is?" Pil Guzi's expression was extremely ugly. They were facing the Saber Mountain Venerable and the Great Wilderness Venerable, 2 9th grade human supremes, and one of them was a middle 9th grade human supremes. Hoping for an unknown defensive formation to block it? It was no different from a joke. "How do we activate the formation?" Dan Guzi asked solemnly. "It's rumored that activating the formation requires a large amount of origin crystals. How about I throw an Emperor-grade origin crystal into the altar to take a look?" O Yangluan hesitated. "Sigh, now that things have come to this, we can only do this." Sighing, Dan Guzi said, "Hand over the 10,000 Emperor-grade origin crystals Ning Yu gave you and then step back." Whoosh. Hearing this, O Yangluan felt as if he had been granted amnesty, and he immediately tossed the storage pouch to Pil Guzi. Gotcha. Pil Guzi directly took out a sovereign-grade origin crystal and crushed it, tossing it onto the altar. When an Emperor-grade essence crystal entered the altar, it was like a stone sinking into the sea, not stirring up any ripples. "How about throwing another one?" O Yangluan said cautiously. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After a moment's thought, Dan Guzi took out 3 more sovereign-grade origin crystals and tossed them into the altar. This time, Dan Guzi didn't crush it. Instead, he threw it into the altar. It was a pity. The altar remained the same. Damn it. Cursing inside, Pil Guzi took out 100 sovereign-grade origin crystals and tossed them onto the altar. Whoosh. 100 Emperor-grade origin crystals had obviously played a role. A terrifying beam of light shot out from the altar, instantly turning the altar transparent. There's hope. Delighted, Dan Guzi decided to go all out. He took out 1,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals and threw them into the altar. Rumble. In an instant, another beam of light shot out from the altar and shone on one of the stone pillars. Instantly, the stone pillar became incomparably smooth. Heavens! A giant heavens character on the stone pillar gradually became clear. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With the same motion, Dan Guzi threw out another 3,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals. The other 3 stone pillars had 3 large characters on them. Earth. None. Extreme. Heaven and Earth Supreme Formation. Dan Guzzi sucked in a cold breath of air when he saw the 4 characters on the 4 stone pillars. He had heard of the Heaven and Earth Supreme Formation. It was an extremely domineering formation, and its defensive power was domineering. However, it had a flaw. It required a large amount of energy, and it also needed a person to control it. No wonder the imperial family has never activated this formation in all these years. So it's the Heaven and Earth Supreme Formation. Dan Guzzi finally understood. A Heaven and Earth Supreme Formation like this couldn't be activated without a person as the eye of the formation. O Yangluan, go find the Dark Emperor and get the 10,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals from him. Taking a deep breath, Dan Guzzi ordered. Yes. O Yangluan had wanted to leave this place for a long time. With Dan Guzzi's approval, he quickly tore open the void and left. If I don't enter hell, who will? After O Yangluan left, Dan Guzzi's voice grew weaker and weaker. Whoosh. Whoosh. At the same time, in a certain forest outside the Grand Xia Kingdom, 2 martial artists descended in an instant. These 2 martial artists were none other than Venerable Great Desolation and Venerable Saber Mountain. Damn it! I must take revenge for this. Venerable Saber Mountain cursed in his heart. We must take revenge, but we need to think about it carefully. Venerable Great Desolation was very calm. With Venerable Spirit Su and Dan Guzzi here, we have no way of killing Ningyu. Not only will I kill Ningyu, but I will also kill Dan Guzzi and Venerable Spirit Su. Venerable Saber Mountain said coldly. Of course we must kill, but... Venerable Great Desolation paused and didn't continue. But what? Venerable Saber Mountain asked. But the price of killing them is a little high. It might be a little cruel. Venerable Great Desolation said. Oh? You have a way? Venerable Saber Mountain raised his brows. I wonder if Venerable Saber Mountain has heard of the 10,000 Ghosts soul-devouring flag. Venerable Great Desolation said. What? You actually have the 10,000 Ghosts soul-devouring flag. Venerable Saber Mountain instantly distanced himself from Venerable Great Desolation and scolded, You are only a 9th grade initial human supreme. It will be effortless for me to kill you. You are mistaken. Even if I have the 10,000 Ghosts soul-devouring flag, I will not be your mat. Venerable Great Desolation took out a red flag and said, This is the 10,000 Ghosts soul-devouring flag. Every time we kill a Yuan Dan realm martial artist, this flag will trap their soul. I have collected it for dozens of years. Now there are a total of 9,000 Yuan Dan realm martial artists' souls in the flag. As long as we kill another 100 Yuan Dan realm martial artists, the power of the 10,000 Ghosts soul-devouring flag will increase to the peak. At that time, it will be effortless for us to kill Ningyu and Venerable Spirit Su. You are too naive. There might not even be 1,000 Yuan Dan realm martial artists in the entire Great Xia Kingdom. Where are we going to find so many powerful martial artists? Venerable Saber Mountain snorted. Haha, you don't have to worry about this. Even though the Great Xia Kingdom doesn't have that many Yuan Dan realm martial artists, the Corpse Sect, Blood God Palace, Lanqing Kingdom, and other kingdoms have them. We will split up and each of us will have 500 Yuan Dan realm martial artists. Venerable Great Desolation smiled and took out a small 10,000 Ghosts soul-devouring flag and threw it to Venerable Saber Mountain. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.